Surprise. Leo's parents stood in the doorway, beaming at their son. It was a rare occasion for them to visit, and in their minds, Leo was surely about to burst with tears of gratitude and overwhelming joy. The fact that they were just stopping by on their way to a vacation was a minor detail. It was the thought that counted, wasn't it? Besides, they'd even brought him some fruit. What an enviable display of familial affection. The moment Leo saw them, he froze, a cold sweat breaking out across his back. This is bad. This is so bad. Look at this kid, his mom, Carol chuckled. He's so happy he's forgotten to let us in. Without waiting for a response, she breezed past him into the apartment, his dad, David, trailing behind her. No, Mama. Leo started, his mouth hanging open. He didn't know what to say. He shut the door and tried to figure out how to get these two divine beings out of his apartment before Ava arrived. Closing the door, Leo forced a strained smile. Mom, Dad, what are you guys doing here? We came all this way just to see you. Aren't you happy? Carol said, her eyes darting around the apartment. His dad went straight for the electric kettle, grabbed a tea bag from the canister by the counter, and started making himself a cup, as if he owned the place. Leo's eye twitched. Like how you came all this way just for me. Ever since he'd left for college, the two of them had been relishing their empty nester life. They barely remembered they had a son. All right, truth is, his dad said, stirring his tea, your mother and I are heading to New York City for a little getaway. We're flying out of Ethelberg, so we figured we'd stop by. He took a sip. This tea tastes different. Did you switch brands? Leo massaged his forehead. I didn't switch anything. Your taste buds probably just changed. When was the last time you were even here? It's a miracle you still remember where I keep the tea. Just then, a soft, clear meow echoed through the apartment. Reggie padded out of the bathroom, his fur still slightly damp, and fixed Leo with an accusatory stare. Bro, you didn't even dry me properly. Oh, Carol's eyes lit up the second she saw the small, fluffy white kitten. She scurried over, knelt down, and gently scooped Reggie into her arms. Since when do you have a cat? He's adorable, she cooed, pressing Reggie's furry body against her cheek and nuzzling him. Reggie remembered what Leo had told him. A woman was coming over, so he had to be cute, not fierce. He let his little paws dangle limply, widened his innocent eyes, and let out a pathetic little mewl, as if trying to win her over. Bro, how am I doing, boss? Meow. Watch me charm the pants off her. You stupid cat. Leo watched his mother, doting on Reggie, and his father kicking back on the sofa with his tea, and he covered his face in despair. It was over. This was a total disaster. There was no way they were leaving anytime soon. He'd texted Ava the second he saw them, telling her not to come, but she hadn't replied. Her phone was probably in her purse. She wouldn't have seen it. There was still a chance. Clinging to his last shred of hope, Leo asked, Mom, what time is your flight? 2 in the afternoon. Why? She asked, not even looking up from where she was cuddling the kitten next to his dad. Leo immediately whipped out his phone. It was 12:30. There was time. Then you guys need to get going. It's already 12:30. You have to check in at least half an hour beforehand. Leo said, exaggerating the urgency. I'm doing great here. You don't need to worry about me. You don't want to miss your flight and not make it to New York. Relax, kid, his dad said calmly, taking another sip of tea and turning on the TV with the remote. You think your mother and I don't know how to manage our time? He paused. Our flight is tomorrow at 2. We're staying at a hotel nearby tonight. Stop worrying about us. Leo froze. Tomorrow at 2? It was over. There was no hope. He took a deep breath and slumped onto the sofa, defeated. He gave up. He was so tired of this. Let the world burn. His only remaining hope was that Ava would see his text and turn back. If she showed up now, he had no idea what he would do. But fate, it seemed, was determined to mess with him. The next second, the doorbell rang, and Ava's voice echoed through the door. Leo Evans, you menace. I'm here. Let me in. That one shout was all it took. His parents' heads snapped up. They stared at the door, then back at Leo. Their expressions morphed from shock to wide, irrepressible grins. Their eyes screamed one thing, gossip. Leo knew it was truly, completely over. Giving up the struggle, he stood and walked to the door like a zombie. What took you so long? Where's Reggie? Ava chided him lightly, slipping past him into the apartment before he could react. She was so eager to see his place that she didn't even notice the look on his face. Your place is actually pretty clear. Ava's enthusiastic tour came to an abrupt halt. Her eyes swept across the living room and landed on the two figures sitting on the sofa. Her brain short-circuited. She thought Leo lived alone. Who were these people? And they looked like parents. Are these two? Ava's head swiveled mechanically toward Leo, her beautiful eyes wide with shock, her voice a trembling whisper. Please don't be Leo's parents. Please, God, no. She would die of embarrassment. She had just called him a menace at the door. Leo had no choice. He braced himself and made the introductions. Oh yeah, as you can see, these are my parents. Then he turned to them, an awkward smile plastered on his face. Mom, Dad, this is Ava. She's my, good friend. Mr. and Mrs. Evans, it's nice to meet you. Ava's face flushed a deep crimson, like a ripe apple. She bowed her head so low it nearly touched her chest, her hands twisting the hem of her shirt. Idiot Leo. Moron Leo. Jerk Leo. Why didn't you tell me your parents were here? What am I supposed to do now? Moreau. Reggie, still in Carol's arms, looked around, confused. He could sense the strange tension in the air. Did he do something wrong? He quickly settled back down. Whatever. What's it got to do with me? I'm just a cat. Oh, hello, dear. It's so lovely to meet you. Come, sit down. David and Carol jumped to their feet, warmly taking her hand and guiding her to the sofa. Reggie was unceremoniously dumped to the side. The little white cat didn't mind. He stretched, found a new spot, and curled up again. Carol's eyes never left Ava, twinkling with amusement, as if she'd just discovered a hidden treasure. What a beautiful girl. And that figure. My son, a true master of the silent arts. No wonder he was in such a hurry to get rid of us. He was hiding a girl here. She shot a triumphant glance at Leo. Caught you. Today was a good day to visit. David secretly gave Leo a thumbs up. Leo just closed his eyes, refusing to look. Ava, what a lovely name, Carol said, her voice filled with warmth. Please, you can just call me Ava, she responded, her voice trembling slightly. It's so much more personal, Carol's smile widened. So, do you come over to Leo's often? The question sent a jolt of panic through Ava. She frantically waved her hands. No, not all, Mrs. Evans. This is my first time here, she said, her tone urgent, desperate not to be misunderstood. After she spoke, Ava looked up at Leo, her eyes pleading for help. Leo's heart ached a little. She looked like she was about to shatter. He quickly stepped in to explain the whole situation to his mom. A few minutes later, Carol Evans was staring at her son with a deeply skeptical expression. So, are you telling me you two just met recently? That's right. And last night, you just happened to find this little white cat. Yep. And so Ava, here, just came over today to see this little white cat. That's about the size of it, Leo said, his voice trailing off, losing confidence. He had to admit, it sounded pretty unbelievable. And he'd left out a lot of details like the whole crime family thing and, of course, the public confession. Professor Miller had already called his parents to tell them about his grand romantic gesture, but they didn't know the object of his affection had been Ava. If they ever found that out, his life would be over. They would mock him for the rest of his days. Seeing his mom's disbelief, Ava quickly chimed in. It's true, Mrs. Evans. I really did just come to see Reggie. Reggie? Moreau, who called me? The cat. Ava clarified. Carol finally understood. So the little white cat's name was Reggie. Not that it mattered. Ava was the important one here. Well, if you say so, dear, of course I believe you, she said, her face all smiles. David sat quietly on the side, squinting at Leo with a look of silent admiration. That's my boy. He just met her and already knows to use a stray cat as bait. And he actually got her to come over. Leo shot him a dirty look. It wasn't like that. I just happen to like cats. So, Ava, are you from Ethelberg? Is your family here, too? What do they do? Is college stressful? Does this knucklehead son of mine ever give you a hard time? Carol fired off a barrage of questions, leaving Ava completely bewildered. Which one was she supposed to answer first? Seeing her predicament, David gently kicked his wife, a silent signal to tone it down before she scared the girl off. Carol realized she'd gotten a bit carried away. Oh, sorry, dear, don't mind me, she laughed. I'm just a little excited. It's just, we've never seen Leo with a girl before. Ava's eyes brightened. Leo's never been with another girl? Does that mean I'm the first? Her mood lifted instantly, the tension melting away. But Carol's questions still presented a dilemma. On one hand, she didn't know if she could talk about her family's business. On the other, she didn't want to lie to Leo's parents. Leo saw her struggle and immediately leaned over to his dad. Dad, you have to get her out of here. Now. David gave him a puzzled look. Leo didn't have time to be subtle. Help me, or I tell Mom where you hide your stash. What? David shot a nervous glance at his wife, then hissed back at Leo. How the hell do you know about my stash? I'm your son, aren't I? I even know how much is in it. Leo slowly held up 2 fingers. The sight of those 2 fingers made David break out in a cold sweat. The kid actually knew. Impossible. I hid it so well. He's barely ever home. How could he possibly know? But there was no time to figure that out now. Nothing was more important than protecting his secret savings. David cleared his throat and grabbed his wife's arm. Honey, that was my sister on the phone earlier. She invited us out for dinner, said we should head over right away. Carol looked at him suspiciously. When did you take a call? I didn't see you on the phone. It was while you were in the other room. Would I lie to you? Well, in that case, let's have Leo and Ava join us. Carol turned to Ava. You're free today, right, dear? Am I? Ava looked to Leo for help. Am I supposed to be free or not? Actually, Mom, Leo jumped in. Ava and I have to head out in a bit. We need to buy cat litter and stuff for Reggie. He shot Ava a meaningful look. Right, Ava? Right. Ava caught on immediately. She turned back to Carol. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Evans, but we already have an appointment at the pet store. Oh, is that so? Carol looked disappointed. She really liked this girl and wanted to chat more. Come on, honey, don't bother them. We have to pack for our trip tomorrow anyway, David said, delivering the final blow. He pulled Carol to her feet and started steering her toward the door. Hey, what's the rush? I haven't even grabbed my purse. I've got it, Mom. Leo quickly handed her the bag, his face a mask of eager helpfulness. Carol took her purse, giving her husband and son a suspicious glare before smiling at Ava. Ava, dear, we'll have to chat again next time. We'll be on our way now. Okay, it was nice meeting you. Bye. Ava stood up politely, her usual young miss attitude completely gone. Leo, his mom called from the door. Make sure you take Ava out for a nice meal. Don't be cheap, and you'd better not bully her. Yes, I know. Leo nodded vigorously, terrified she might decide to stay and start one of her never-ending lectures. As the old saying went, a parent's nagging is like a bowl of bitter medicine. Anyone who can swallow it has something wrong with them. We're going. Click. The door shut. Leo finally let out a breath of relief. How his dad was going to explain the non-existent dinner invitation was not his problem. He didn't know if the call was real or fake, but in the end, it was every man for himself. One of them had to survive. Once she was sure his parents were gone, Ava's sweet demeanor vanished. She spun around, a ferocious look on her face, marched up to Leo, and started stomping on his foot. Leo Evans, you are such a jerk, she seethed, her cheeks still flushed. My parents were here. Why didn't you tell me beforehand? You made me look like an idiot, and they almost got the wrong idea. You did this on purpose to mess with me. I'm going to stomp you into the ground. God only knew how she had survived the last 15 minutes. She felt like she was going to fall apart. All her pent-up frustration exploded at once. Caught off guard, Leo took several hits before he managed to dodge away. It's not my fault you didn't check your phone. You're still trying to make excuses? No, seriously, check your phone. You see what next? I don't want to see it. Ava lunged forward and started pinching his side, determined to vent her anger. Reggie, the little white cat, had taken refuge on the windowsill, curled into a trembling ball. He covered his eyes with his paws, peeking through the gaps. That female human is terrifying. She's hitting the boss, and he's not even fighting back. I must never, ever get on her bad side. A few minutes later, Ava was sitting on the sofa, giggling as she pet a very happy Reggie. Her anger had clearly subsided. Leo stood off to the side, rubbing his ribs and sucking in sharp breaths of air. The spot Ava had pinched was already turning a nasty shade of purple. That girl didn't hold back at all. If it weren't for his enhanced physiology skill, which had significantly toughened him up, he suspected she might have actually ripped a chunk of flesh out. Reggie lay purring in Ava's lap on his best behavior. Even though he'd initially protested the name Reggie, he now responded with a meek meow every time Ava called him. Survival of the fittest, cat edition. He didn't know who was at the bottom of the food chain in this apartment, but it was crystal clear who was at the top, sucking up to Leo instead of Ava. Please. His 9 lives weren't a joke. Leo, have you fed Reggie any cat food? Ava asked, her voice full of concern as she looked at the kitten's small frame. Moreau, I want cat food. Reggie seized the opportunity. He was sick of hot dogs. He'd eaten enough of them on the streets to last a lifetime. Leo glared at the cat. There's no cat food, he said with a sigh. He had a hot dog this morning. That's not good enough. Reggie's just a kitten. He's still growing. Ava protested. Moreau, meow, meow. Exactly. I'm a growing boy. Leo sighed again. Fine. You want to go out and buy some? And so, after a quick tidy-up, Leo and Ava headed out to buy supplies for Reggie. Reggie, you be a good boy while we're gone, okay? Ava cooed, stroking the kitten's head one last time before they left. Moreau, don't forget the cat food. Leo's eye twitched. He couldn't believe this gentle, caring girl was the same person who had been so violent just moments ago. He wondered if Julian had to deal with this side of her, too. Leaving Reggie alone in the apartment. Oh, wait, a cat wasn't a person. The two of them headed out. A friend of mine owns a pet supply store. We should go there, Ava suggested. Leo nodded. It didn't matter to him where they went. He had nothing better to do. They walked out of the apartment complex and stood on the sidewalk, pausing. Leo stared at Ava. Ava stared back at Leo. WH, what are you looking at me for? Call a ride, she said, a slight blush rising on her cheeks. A ride? Leo looked confused. What kind of ride? Where are your two bodyguards? Aren't we supposed to be taking your car? I'm out with the daughter of a crime family. You're telling me I have to call my own Uber? Oh, you mean Rook and Knight? They went back after they dropped me off. They went back? So you're here all by yourself? Yeah. Why do you look so surprised? Ava asked, tilting her head. Leo was at a loss for words. I mean, who's protecting you? You said it yourself, didn't you? The less I seem to care about my safety, the more hesitant they'll be to make a move. She paused, then added, besides, my brother said I don't need bodyguards as long as you're with me. Though she didn't quite understand why Julian had said that, she trusted her brother completely. Leo's eye twitched again. Julian Reed, you son of a bitch. You're really treating me like your family's personal muscle, aren't you? With no other choice, Leo hailed a cab. Ava got in, gave the driver the address, and they were off to her friend's pet supply store. About 15 minutes later, they arrived. Leo followed Ava down the street until they stopped in front of a shop. Ava expertly pushed open the half-closed door, and with a soft creak, she stepped inside. Quinn, I'm here, she called out brightly. The woman behind the counter, Quinn, had been absorbed in a TV show on her tablet. At the sound of Ava's voice, her head shot up. She jumped to her feet, a huge, surprised smile spreading across her face. Ava, what are you doing here today? It's been forever. Her words died in her throat. Her eyes widened as if she'd seen a ghost. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what am I seeing? Trailing behind Ava was a handsome, sunny-looking guy. Ava, the same Ava who wouldn't give any guy the time of day, had actually brought a boy to her store. Ava walked closer. Quinn, what's with that look on your face? You look like you've seen a ghost. Leo followed behind her, looking around curiously. It was his first time at Pet Store. He'd never seen half of this stuff before. He noticed Quinn staring at him and, out of politeness, gave a small nod. Hi, I'm Leo. Oh, hi. Nice to meet you. Quinn finally snapped out of her shock, her eyes darting back and forth between Leo and Ava. Curiosity got the better of her. So, are you Ava's boyfriend? The question hung in the air. Both Ava and Leo instinctively looked at each other. Quinn, just ignore him. Pretend he's not here, Ava said quickly, a wave of panic rising in her chest before Leo could answer. She didn't even know what to call their relationship. They'd never crossed that line, just maintained this delicate, undefined balance. And besides, she wasn't ready for that yet. Quinn saw the flustered, slightly shy look on Ava's face and took in the charged atmosphere between them. She narrowed her eyes. She had a pretty good idea of what was going on. TSK. So innocent, our little Ava. Quinn was screaming internally, but her face remained perfectly composed. When Ava mentioned needing supplies for a cat, Quinn enthusiastically led them to the right section. For the litter box, I'd recommend this one for you guys, Quinn said, putting extra emphasis on the you guys. And let's get you a cat bed. The food and litter are over here. As she spoke, Quinn skillfully grabbed various bags of cat food from the shelves and tossed them all into the litter box they were getting. Leo stood to the side, holding a large, plush cat bed. He gave a squeeze. The softness surprised him. Wow, this is soft. It would probably be really comfortable to sit on. Watching Quinn bustle around, Ava seemed to remember something. She took a step back to stand next to Leo and whispered, Quinn is part of our family, too. She's Kane's older cousin. But like me, Quinn isn't involved in any of the family business. She opened this shop on her own. Leo's eyebrows shot up. He never would have guessed that big oaf Kane had a cousin like this. All right, this should be about enough, Quinn announced, scanning the pile of supplies to make sure she hadn't missed anything. How much is all this, Quinn? I'll send you the money, Ava said, pulling out her phone. Quinn stopped her. Ava, what are you doing? Are you trying to insult me? She said, putting on a stern face. After all these years, you think I'd let you pay? If you pay today, don't ever call me Quinn again. A crisp electronic voice suddenly cut through her resolute declaration. Payment received. $500. They both froze, turning to see Leo, one arm holding the cat bed, the other pocketing the phone he'd just used to pay. He had a completely innocent look on his face. What are you looking at me for? He asked, seeing them staring. You're supposed to pay for things you buy, right? I saw the prices and did the math. It should be $500, if I'm not mistaken. Quinn's mouth twitched. Is that really the point here? Does any normal person pay in a situation like this? She decided this Leo guy was more than a little weird. The three of them stood there for a moment in awkward silence. Ava was the first to recover. Well, Quinn, since he already paid, you might as well take it, she said with a laugh. You can just treat me to dinner next time. Since she'd put it that way, Quinn had no choice but to relent. All right, fine, but don't pull something like this again. Leo just gave a sheepish smile. He had done it because he felt bad just taking stuff from her store on his first visit. By the way, have you two taken the cat to a vet for a checkup? Quinn asked. Strays can carry all sorts of diseases. Ava shook her head. Leo had only found Reggie yesterday, so there obviously hadn't been time. But Leo spoke up. It's fine. He's perfectly healthy. He had specifically asked Reggie about any health problems while giving him a bath the day before. Reggie had adamantly insisted he was a perfectly healthy little cat. How do you know that? Quinn asked, puzzled. Was this guy a vet or something? I had a vet friend come over to the house and take a look, Leo said, fabricating a lie on the spot. He couldn't very well say the cat told him. Could he? They'd think he was insane. You have a vet friend? Ava turned her head. Is it a guy or a girl? A guy, Leo answered, instantly on alert. And he's pretty old. Ava glanced at him, her beautiful eyes studying his face for a moment before she seemed to accept his answer. Leo's mind was already racing, trying to figure out where he was going to find a male vet to befriend. He remembered AU had a veterinary program. He'd have to ask around later. If Ava ever found out he'd lied to her, he'd be in for another beating. His side still ached from where she'd pinched him earlier. With her shopping done, Quinn, who hadn't seen Ava in a while, wanted to chat, especially about Leo. She whispered something in Ava's ear. Ava's eyes widened for a second. Then she turned to Leo and asked him to go buy her a boba tea, a clear excuse to get him out of the store so they could have some girl talk. Are you serious? That boba place is super far from here, Leo said, looking at his phone's map. The shop Ava wanted was nearly 2 miles away. There's another one right around the corner. He showed her the map. Why do I have to go all the way over there? Just go. Ava pushed his phone away and started herding him toward the door. That's the one I want. If you buy me one from the place nearby, you're dead. Pushed out the door, Leo turned and stared at her for a long moment, a teasing smile on his face. What? Are you and Quinn going to talk about something I'm not supposed to hear? Oh, just go, please. Seeing that he'd figured her out, Ava immediately switched tactics. She started whining, grabbing his arm and shaking it gently. We'll just talk for a little while, I promise. It'll be quick. She held up a hand, her bright eyes looking up at him. I swear, we'll go home as soon as you get back. Her cute smile melted his resolve, and pathetically, Leo went to buy the boba. He couldn't help it. Ava's whining was a lethal, totally unfair tactic. Take your time. No rush, Ava called, waving sweetly at his retreating back. The moment he was out of sight, she turned around to find Quinn standing in the doorway, grinning from ear to ear. Well, I never thought I'd see the day our little Ava would know how to sweet-talk a guy, Quinn teased. Ava's face instantly turned red. So what's the deal with you two? Has he asked you out yet? This was a question Quinn was dying to have answered. Ava froze. Asked me out? Well, he sort of had, but they barely knew each other back then, and she'd been so angry she'd had him kidnapped. Ava hesitated, then ended up telling Quinn the whole story of Leo's disastrous public confession. What? He asked you out in front of the whole class and the professor. Quinn gasped, covering her mouth. And what did you say? Did you say yes? Ava shook her head. How would she have said yes? At that moment, she'd wanted to strangle him. Does your brother know about this? He probably does. They've met. Oh my God. Quinn was shocked all over again. She couldn't believe Julian had already met Leo. And the fact that Leo was still walking around in one piece meant Julian must have approved of him. But Quinn couldn't figure it out. Besides being handsome, there didn't seem to be anything particularly special about the guy. Had Julian chosen him for his ordinariness? Did he just want Ava to live a simple, quiet life? Quinn wasn't sure. She couldn't read Julian's mind. Very few people in Ethelberg could. She decided she'd have to ask Kane later. Her little cousin was always by Julian's side. He would know more. The flame of gossip burned brightly in Quinn's eyes. She was tempted to call Kane right then and there, but she knew that was impossible. She was aware of the declaration of war between the Reed and Fong families. While it was unlikely to affect her directly, Kane had warned her to minimize contact with the family for the time being. Ava, of course, was the exception. No one would dare touch her, fearing she was bait set by Julian. So what about you? Quinn asked, turning back to Ava. Don't tell me you don't like him. A blind person could see you two are into each other. Are you going to wait for him to ask you out again? Or are you going to make the first move? Ava's face flushed in even deeper red, all the way to her ears. She looked down, fidgeting with her fingers. I don't know what to do. I've never been in a situation like this before. Quinn saw right through her. As someone with more experience, she could tell that Ava wasn't ready to make a move, let alone confess her feelings. It looked like if they were ever going to break through that final barrier, it would have to be Leo who took the lead. She couldn't help but marvel at the change. The once demanding and willful young miss was now acting like a shy, uncertain girl. Because of Leo, Ava was slowly changing. And at the same time, Leo was constantly accommodating Ava, his life gradually making space for her. Even if neither of them recognized the shift, their hearts were slowly drawing closer. One day, that change would become so obvious they would finally understand the deep-seated affection they had for each other. And when that day came, it wouldn't matter who spoke first. They would just naturally be together. "It's okay, Ava," Quinn said, her voice soft and gentle, like a comforting older sister. She stroked Ava's hair. "Someone will always love you in their own way. All we have to do is wait, recognize it, and then respond. If you're not ready, then just wait. Waiting can be beautiful, too, especially the waiting that comes before love. It will become a memory you'll never forget." Ava looked up, a hint of confusion in her eyes. Maybe she didn't fully understand what Quinn meant, but it didn't matter. Confusion was exactly what someone their age was supposed to feel. Confusion about love was exactly what life was supposed to be about. Half an hour later, Ava and Quinn were laughing and chatting when Leo returned, carrying 2 boba teas. "Hey, you're back," Quinn said, smiling as she stood up to take one of the drinks from him. "Thanks for going all that way." Leo just shook his head, unconcerned. For him, it had just been a walk. He handed the other boba to Ava, but she didn't take it. He shot her a questioning look. "I don't want it," she said, grinning at him. "Boba is so sweet, and it makes you gain weight." "I hate it." "Then why did you make me go buy it?" Leo asked, exasperated. This girl was impossible. "You drink it." Quinn said this flavor is really good. Ava said. She took the cup, poked the straw through the lid, and held it up to Leo's lips. "Just try it." Leo didn't usually drink boba. He thought it was overpriced compared to a good old can of soda. But with Ava holding it right there, he took a small sip. His eyes lit up. This is actually really good." He took another, much larger sip. It was way better than he'd expected. No wonder so many people liked this stuff. Really, Ava's interest was piqued. "Was it that good?" She took the cup back, put it to her own lips, and took a sip. "So sweet. Ugh, way too sweet. I really can't stand it," she said, wrinkling her nose as she handed the cup back to Leo. Leo took it stunned. He looked at the straw, then back at Ava. Was that an indirect kiss? Ava realized it at the same time. She had just drunk from the same straw Leo had used. Her face instantly flushed crimson. Before Leo could say anything, she quickly changed the subject. "Anyway, Quinn, we should get going. We'll come visit again soon." Without waiting for a reply, she bolted out the door, not even checking to see if Leo was following. Her heart was in a total panic. She had just indirectly kissed Leo. What if he got the wrong idea? Leo stared at her retreating back, baffled. "Hey, we haven't even grabbed our stuff yet," he said. Quinn just laughed. She gathered up the pile of pet supplies and handed it all to Leo. "Can you carry all this? It's kind of heavy. I can get Ava to come back and help." "It's okay, Quinn. I've got it," Leo said with a smile. He shifted everything into one arm, seemingly without effort. Quinn was slightly surprised. Leo didn't look particularly muscular, but he was stronger than he looked. "That girl can be a real handful sometimes," Quinn said, her expression turning serious. "You have to be patient with her. She hasn't really spent time with guys before. I just hope, no matter what, you don't break her heart." Leo's gaze drifted to the figure standing just outside the door. A flicker of tenderness crossed his face. "Don't worry," he said softly. "I will." When they got outside, the blush on Ava's face had mostly faded. Seeing Leo laden with all their purchases, she remembered that she'd been so flustered she'd forgotten all about Reggie's new things. She rushed over. "Here, let me carry something," she said, looking for something she could take. But there was nothing she could easily grab. "You can hold the boba," Leo said, amused, handing her the cup. "Oh!" Ava took it, her cheeks turning pink again. As Leo turned to wave goodbye to Quinn, she snuck another tiny sip. "EW so sweet." She stuck out her tongue, but it was also kind of good. "Quinn, we're leaving." "Okay, come back soon." Ava waved, while Leo, his hands full, could only manage a nod. As they walked back, they passed a general store. Ava suddenly stopped. "What's wrong?" Leo asked, wondering what she was up to now. Ava put a finger to her lips, pretending to be thoughtful. "I noticed you only have one pair of slippers at your place. So, So what if your parents or other guests come over? It's not very welcoming to not have slippers for them. Wait here. Before he could respond, Ava dashed into the store. A few minutes later, she came out with 2 new pairs of slippers. Here, from now on, you wear these, she said, holding up a blue pair. Then she pointed to the pink pair. And these are mine. No one else is allowed to wear them, but me. Leo couldn't help but laugh. What about my old pair? Ava tilted her head, thinking, save them for guests. Oh, whatever. The point is, you can only wear the ones I bought you. She was being incredibly bossy, her long legs poised as if she were ready to jump up and stomp on him if he dared to say no. When Leo nodded in agreement, a brilliant smile lit up her face. A little while later, they were at the curb waiting for a ride, but this time, Ava was the one calling for it. Standing beside her, Leo happened to glance at the boba tea in her hand, and a giant question mark appeared over his head. How was it already half empty? He watched as she stared at her phone, taking small, periodic sips. He was speechless. Who was it that said they hated boba tea? A dog, probably. A little dog named Ava. He felt a pang of regret. He had actually liked that drink. Now it looked like he wouldn't get another sip. If he asked for it back, she would definitely get angry and start hitting him. He was already used to it. Wait, why was he used to this kind of thing? Soon, their ride arrived. Back at the apartment, they opened the door and were greeted by a shocking sight. There was Reggie, perched on the balcony, gnawing on a hot dog held between his 2 little paws. Hearing the door open, he froze, turning his head to stare at Leo and Ava, caught red-handed. Oh, Ava cried out, rushing to the balcony to scoop him up. What are you doing out here eating a hot dog all by yourself? You must have been starving. Leo's eye twitched as he looked at the pile of empty plastic wrappers on the floor. He could understand the cat eating a hot dog. But how the hell did the stupid cat manage to open the packaging? And so neatly, too. Bro, I'm sorry. Caught in the act, Reggie immediately chose to apologize rather than make excuses. The cat's remorse seemed sincere enough, so Leo decided to let him off the hook. For now. Then, Ava excitedly showed Reggie all the new things they had bought. Reggie, look, this is your new little cat bed, she said, bringing over the plush bed. She then held up the litter box. And this is your litter box. From now on, you have to, she chattered on, carefully explaining the purpose of each item. Reggie's eyes sparkled. Meow, meow, meow. With a life like this, I can die with no regrets. Leo's mouth twitched. Your past life must have been pretty pathetic if this is all it takes for you to have no regrets. Is this really all you aspire to, Spike? No ambition at all. Ava stayed at Leo's place until evening. After they grabbed dinner at a small place nearby, her 2 bodyguards arrived in a car to pick her up. She was reluctant to leave and even tried to take Reggie with her, but the cat didn't seem to want to go. In reality, the little white cat would have given anything to go back with Ava, to spend his days lounging in her fragrant embrace. It would be a life with no regrets. But under Leo's threatening glare, Reggie lost his nerve. He was afraid his wonderful new cat life would be snuffed out before it even began. Leo, you have to take good care of Reggie, Ava instructed, her voice soft but firm, when it was clear the cat wouldn't leave with her. If he loses any weight, you're dead. Meanwhile, beneath the calm surface, Ethelberg City was simmering. Ever since the declaration of war at the Phoenix Pavilion, every major power in the city was on high alert. The shadow war between the Reed and Fung families was escalating daily, and the Lin Syndicate was lurking, waiting for an opportunity. The Wallace family also made their formal announcement. In 1 week, they would officially relocate their operations to Ethelberg. The news sent shockwaves through the underworld. Everyone knew that the moment the Wallaces arrived, the real war would begin. The Wallace family wasn't just an apex family from the Gray Zone. They were also the official witnesses to the Reed's declaration of war against the Fungs. Within the Lin Syndicate's territory, in a dimly lit room, a man stood beside Marcus Lin. With the Reeds and the Fungs at each other's throats, "This is our golden opportunity," the man said, his eyes heavy with grim purpose. His name was Wyatt Kane, and he was Marcus Lin's and the entire Syndicate's secret weapon. Wyatt had once been the top assassin for another Apex family. After that family was annihilated, he had been won over by Marcus Lin's ambition and joined the Syndicate. To this day, Marcus had kept Wyatt completely hidden from the eyes of Julian Reed and Victor Fung. No one knew the Lin Syndicate had such a man in their ranks. Only Marcus himself knew of Wyatt's existence. "You've kept me in the shadows for years," Wyatt continued, his eyes glinting. "Now we have the perfect chance. Are you not going to make a move? We could use this to rise up and become an Apex family ourselves." Marcus Lin leaned back on the sofa, casually flipping a coin between his fingers. "Wyatt, Do you know why Julian Reed dared to declare war on the phones right in front of me? Wyatt froze. He hadn't thought about that. Was there a hidden meaning? Seeing his confusion, Marcus explained with a thin smile, "You don't understand Julian Reed. If you truly believe this is a chance to play the jackal while the tiger and lion fight, you're gravely mistaken. You would be walking straight into his trap." Wyatt's brow furrowed. Is he really that formidable? He can deal with the phones and still have the capacity to fend us off. Marcus chuckled. The fact that you even have to ask that question proves you're not his opponent. He had clashed with Julian for years and knew exactly how terrifying he could be. He may have been hiding an ace like Wyatt, but who knew how many aces Julian had up his own sleeve? Marcus would not make a move until all of Julian's cards were on the table. However, Marcus continued, "After hiding you for so long, it is indeed time for you to be of use." "What do you need me to do?" Wyatt asked, his voice sharp with anticipation. "Do you want someone killed?" After so many years in the shadows, he was eager for action. It had been too long since he'd tasted the thrill of the kill. As a former top assassin, killing had become a dependency. Too long without it, and he felt an itch all over like ants crawling under his skin. Marcus didn't answer right away. After a long moment of thought, he said, "I want you to watch Julian Reed's sister, Ava. You cannot be detected. Can you do that?" Wyatt paused. "Surveil Julian's sister? I can. As long as I don't make a move, no one will ever notice me. They'll just think I'm an ordinary person." Marcus nodded. "Good. Monitor her every move. Then report your findings anonymously to Victor Phone." "Report to the phones? Why?" Victor Phone doesn't dare to move against Ava, fearing she's a trap set by Julian. But when a man is cornered, he'll jump into any trap, just for the chance to gamble his way out. Marcus stood and poured himself a glass of wine. "What we're going to do is give him a little push while he hesitates. Victor Phone is destined to lose to Julian Reed," he continued, a faint smile playing on his lips. "And Ava is, without a doubt, Julian's only weakness. When the time is right, we will feed her location to Victor." He turned to Wyatt. "Tell me, when Victor Phone is on the brink of ruin, do you think he'll make a move on Ava?" A cold sweat trickled down Wyatt's back. If he were in Victor's shoes, he absolutely would. He'd have no other choice. "Julian is not so foolish as to not anticipate this," Marcus went on. "So in the final stages, he will surely place his strongest assets around Ava. And that is when you will strike. I want you to help Victor Phone make his move on Ava. Because Julian doesn't know you exist, he won't be prepared for you. Best case scenario, you capture Ava, and the Lynn Syndicate reaps the rewards, toppling both the Phones and the Reeds. Of course, the probability of that is very low. The most likely outcome, Marcus said, is that Julian will be forced to deploy all of his hidden assets to protect her. In that case, I will have used your existence to expose the majority of his trump cards." At the thought, Marcus couldn't help but smile. He took a delicate sip of red wine. The entire plan hinged on Wyatt Kane. Suddenly, another thought occurred to him. "Remember," he warned, "you are not to make a move on Ava without my direct order. And be careful of a boy around her named Leo Evans. He's the one who crippled Scar." Wyatt nodded, though he didn't give Leo a second thought. He'd heard the stories about what happened to Scar, but in his mind, it was simply a case of Scar being incompetent. If he had been there instead of Leo, he was confident he could have done the job faster, cleaner, and with more finality. In the end, Leo was just a student. Marcus saw the disdain in Wyatt's eyes, but said nothing more. He knew Wyatt's capabilities. The gap between him and Leo was immense. "Go. Be clean. Don't let Victor Phone or Julian Reed detect you. Neither of them is a fool." "I know. Don't worry," Wyatt said. He turned and left the room, leaving Marcus alone. In the dim light, Marcus sat on the sofa, swirling the wine in his glass, his eyes fixed on the deep red liquid. A sinister smile spread across his face as he murmured to himself, "Of the three great families of Ethelberg, you Phones and Reeds have had your time in the spotlight. Did you really think the Lynn Syndicate would just sit back and watch? Julian Reed, just you wait." The following week was deceptively normal for Leo, almost like a return to the days before he had the system. Monday, he woke up, slid into his seat just as class started, and promptly fell asleep. He was amazed to find that Professor Miller's lectures were the perfect antidote to the sleepless nights caused by his enhanced physiology. He'd never slept better. At lunch, he ditched Dylan Miller to eat with Ava. In the afternoon, Dylan was ditched again. That evening, racked with guilt, Leo decided to make it up to Dylan. They made an executive decision to skip the mandatory freshman study hall and pull an all-nighter at a LAN cafe. Their Valorant record that night was catastrophic. They swore an oath to never touch that cursed game again. Tuesday, With no morning classes, Leo and Dylan went home to catch up on sleep, returning to campus in the afternoon. That night, they skipped study hall again to return to the battlegrounds of Valorant. Wednesday, Professor Miller found out about them skipping study hall. They were publicly chewed out in front of the entire class. Apparently, someone had snitched, but they didn't know who. Miller dragged Leo to his office for another 30-minute lecture, then handed him 5 advanced competitive math worksheets, due Friday. At lunch, he ate with Ava, who, for some reason, had a smug look on her face. That night, Dylan, unafraid of death, invited Leo for another all-nighter. Leo declined his friend's suicidal proposal and instead spent the evening plowing through the 5 worksheets before going for a walk with Ava along the river. Thursday, first thing in the morning, Leo marched into Professor Miller's office and slapped the completed worksheets on his desk. It felt amazing. His reward was 5 more worksheets. At noon, Dylan angrily confronted him about something, but Leo wasn't really listening. It was probably something about choosing girls over friends and ditching him for lunch. In the afternoon, Dylan showed up with a fawning smile, apologizing profusely. It seemed Ava had threatened him with Chloe Meng's contact information, telling him to back off and stop causing trouble. Leo had to admit, Dylan was impressively flexible. The speed at which he could change his tune was astonishing. He should have dropped out and applied to film school. This peaceful, ordinary routine continued until Friday. Friday was the day of the school's big field trip. At 8 in the morning, buses were already lined up at the school gates, ready to take students in waves to the amusement park. Leo had packed the night before. He got up, showered, and headed out with his backpack. He planned on taking one of the later buses, but Ava had insisted on the first one and insisted he come with her. "If I don't see you on that first bus tomorrow morning, you're dead," she had threatened, grinding her teeth. Honestly, Leo wasn't scared of Ava's threats. He was just a morning person who couldn't sleep in any way. Walking down the street, Leo munched on a breakfast burrito while scrolling through his phone. "Why does my bag feel so heavy?" he muttered himself. "I didn't think I packed that much." He figured he'd just overestimated how much stuff he'd need. "Bro, I'm not heavy." A faint meow came from his backpack. Leo froze, then mechanically turned his head to look at the bag slung over his shoulder. "No, it can't be. I must have imagined that." Clinging to a sliver of hope, he swung the backpack around his front and carefully unzipped it. A small white, furry head poked out, staring up at him with wide eyes. Crack! The sound of his hope shattering. "What the hell are you doing in here?" Leo whispered, exasperated. He hooked a finger under Reggie's scruff and lifted him out of the bag. He wanted to strangle the stupid cat. No wonder something fell off this morning. The little fur ball had been missing. He glanced at the time. It was too late to take him back now. He'd have to bring him to the amusement park. Leo sighed. "Bro, I'm hungry," Reggie called out, completely oblivious to the danger he was in. Thump! Leo gave him a light flick on the head. The little white cat yelped, covering his head with his paws, tears welling up in his eyes. "Are you still hungry?" "Bro, not anymore." Satisfied, Leo stuffed Reggie back in a backpack, zipped it up, and continued on his way. What do you do when your cat is hungry? A light beating usually solves the problem. Half an hour later, he finally arrived at the bus. "Leo, you almost missed it." Ava stood in front of the bus, hands on her hips, her tone impatient. She was wearing a khaki jacket and light blue jeans that hugged her long legs. More than a few guys were sneaking glances at her. "But I didn't miss it, did I?" Leo retorted. His reward was a sharp pinch on his side from Ava's slender fingers. It didn't have much force behind it. It was just a token of her displeasure. Leo sighed. He would have been here earlier, but the stupid cat had made him miss the city bus, forcing him to wait for the next one. "Mio, serves you right," came a tiny voice from his backpack. Leo and Ava boarded the bus. Surprisingly, Dylan was already there, sitting next to Chloe Meng. He waved them over. "What's going on?" "I thought this trip was just for freshmen," Leo asked as he sat down. He knew Chloe was a sophomore in the foreign languages department. "What's she doing here?" "They needed upperclassmen volunteers to help out," Dylan explained. "Chloe's on the student council, so she signed up." Leo glanced over at Chloe and saw the student council armband on her sleeve. They exchanged friendly greetings. A moment later, the bus lurched into motion. The drive to the amusement park would take about 30 minutes. Leo leaned close to Dylan's ear. "So, how are things going with you and Chloe?" Dylan glanced at Chloe, who was engrossed in her phone, then whispered back, "Still working on it. It's complicated. I'll tell you about it later." Leo nodded. Suddenly, he felt a weight on his shoulder. He turned his head to see Ava, her eyes closed, her breathing soft and even. She'd fallen asleep. She must have woken up too early. Leo shook his head with a small smile. He shifted his body, slumping down a bit to give her a more comfortable resting place. He then raised a finger to his lips, signaling Dylan to keep his voice down. He glanced at Ava's peaceful face. An idea struck him. He slowly pulled out his phone and opened the camera. Click! He snapped a picture of her sleeping on his shoulder. In the photo, a faint smile played on her lips. She looked completely content. After a moment's thought, Leo set the photo as his phone's lock screen. He knew he could absolutely never let her see it. If she did, in her fury, his phone would probably cease to exist. 30 minutes later, the bus came to a stop. They had arrived at Ethelberg Gardens, an amusement park. Ava opened her eyes, still groggy. She had slept on Leo's shoulder the entire way, and her hair was a mess. Are we here? She murmured, blinking as she looked out the window. A giant Ferris wheel immediately caught her eye. Yeah, Leo said. He reached over and gently smoothed down her messy hair. What time did you go to bed last night? I don't remember. I just tossed and turned for hours. It seemed she had been so excited for the trip that she couldn't sleep. The four of them got off the bus and headed to the entrance to pick up the EU student wristbands that would give them free access to all the rides. As Leo and Ava waited in line, he looked up and saw a familiar figure handing out the wristbands. He squinted. Wait a minute, is that Kane? What's he doing here? Isn't the Reed family supposed to be on high alert? He has time for a side hustle? Kane was wearing a baseball cap and a park employee uniform, efficiently directing students into the park. When it was Leo and Ava's turn, neither of them took the wristbands he offered. Kane's hand froze. He looked up, and his eyes met the wide, staring eyes of Leo and Ava. Kane, what are you two doing here? Kane asked, frowning. Leo's eye twitched. Dude, between the three of us, who do you think is the weirdest one to see here? Kane glanced down at the wristbands in his hand. Oh, right. This is your school's event. No kidding. You take a side gig without even knowing the basics. Who the hell is taking a side gig? I'm here for a reason. What? Playing spies in an amusement park? Shut up. You don't know anything. This is a secret mission. It's very important. How much are they paying you for this? Daily rate. 200. Ava stood beside them, amused by the conversation. She'd never seen Kane so flustered. She gently tapped Leo's arm. Let's not bother Kane while he's working. We should go in. Kane looked at Ava and handed them their wristbands. Take care of her, he said to Leo. The chances of something happening are slim, but be careful. Don't worry, Leo promised. He took the wristbands, but after a few steps, he turned back. By the way, does that $200 go to the family, or do you get to keep it? Get lost, Kane gritted out. If it weren't for the sensitive situation and his mission, he would have beaten Leo senseless. The guy was infuriating. You and your big mouth, Ava said, playfully swatting him. Let's go. They entered the park. Ava told Leo to wait for a minute while she went to the restroom. Leo gazed at the roller coaster and the giant swinging pendulum ride, then remembered Reggie was still in his backpack. He quickly knelt down and unzipped it. The little white cat looked like he was about to suffocate, his ears drooping. The moment the bag was open, he leaped out. Bro, so hot in there. Sorry, I forgot about you, Leo said, his apologetic tone completely at odds with his unconcerned expression. Go on, find a place to play. Come find me when you're tired. He knew Reggie had snuck into his bag specifically to get out and have some fun. With any other cat, Leo wouldn't have dared to let it run free, but Reggie was different. He seemed to possess a level of intelligence far beyond that of a normal cat, almost human-like. Maybe it was from spending so much time with Leo, but Reggie was slowly turning into a very weird little cat. Bro, okay. Hearing he was free to play, Reggie perked up instantly, his lethargy vanishing. He let out a happy meow and darted off. Leo watched him go, smiling. That stupid cat was probably going to be gone for a while. He hadn't been outside since Leo had brought him home. Leo. In the distance, Ava was jogging toward him, her face alight with excitement. She ran up to him, slightly out of breath. I just saw. They have a haunted house over there. Let's go do the haunted house, she said, her eyes shining with anticipation. She'd never been in one before, but had heard they were terrifying. Quinn had strongly recommended she try it at least once. Leo raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? He knew exactly how brave she was. She acted tough, but in reality, she was a total scaredy cat. But seeing her determined nod, he had no choice but to agree. Worst case, they could just turn back. He was already prepared for their adventure to end the second it began. They walked over to the haunted manor. A small crowd had gathered, but no one seemed brave enough to go in. Surprisingly, Dylan was there too, and it looked like he was about to enter. Chloe, do we really have to do this? Dylan's voice trembled slightly, but he tried to sound nonchalant. I mean, I'm fine, obviously. I'm pretty brave. I'm just worried about you. I'll be fine. You don't have to worry about me, Chloe said with a small smile, not a hint of nervousness on her face. Leo clapped a hand over his mouth to stifle his laughter. Dylan in a haunted house. Seriously? Other people might not know, but Leo knew his friend's courage was on par with Ava's, if not worse. He'd nearly punched out an actor during a horror-themed escape room back at the start of the semester. But since Dylan was his best friend, it was his duty to step up and help. Leo walked over and slapped Dylan on the shoulder. Chloe, you might not know this, but my boy Dylan here is a legend. He's conquered every haunted house in Ethelberg. They call him the Haunted House Killer. Really? Chloe asked, looking at Dylan with newfound admiration. You son of a bitch, Leo. You're trying to get me killed. Dylan shot Leo a murderous glare, then turned back to Chloe and forced a smile. Well, it's not that big of a deal. He's just being modest. Chloe, you know how it is. Leo cut in smoothly. And he's a little shy. You know what? I'll talk to the staff for you guys. Let you go in first. Before Dylan could protest, Leo was already at the entrance, pointing at Dylan and Chloe and telling the staff they were ready to take on the challenge. Leo, you bastard. Dylan gritted his teeth. He swore, from this day forward, he and Leo were mortal enemies. The first thing he was going to do when he got home was buy a knife and end him. Are they going to be okay? Ava asked, peering toward the entrance. She was starting to get cold feet. Her earlier bravado was fading, replaced by the realization that her courage might not be up to the task of a haunted house. Don't worry, it's fine, Leo said with a brilliant, toothy grin. Dylan's the haunted house killer. At that moment, Dylan had no time to worry about Leo. He and Chloe were listening to the staff explain the rules. Our haunted house has a unique dual entry system. Each of you will enter through a separate entrance. Entrance 1 has more ghosts, but the path is relatively simple. Entrance 2 has fewer ghosts and is less scary, but the path is a complex maze with various obstacles. Regardless of which entrance you choose, you both need to place your respective red and blue coins on the mechanism located in the center of the haunted house to complete the challenge. The staff member produced a red coin and a blue coin, handing one to Dylan and one to Chloe. A one person per entrance? Dylan asked tentatively. Can't we both go through the same one? Well, you could, if you're scared, the staff member said, completely blocking Dylan's only escape route. Staring at the red coin in his hand, Dylan's face took on the grim finality of a man walking to his execution. He turned to Chloe. Don't worry, Chloe. I'll get through my side as fast as I can and come help you. Chloe nodded, her eyes shining. I believe in you, haunted house killer. You choose your own entrances, the staff member added. And if you break the record for the fastest completion time, there's a special prize. That last part piqued the interest of some of the more timid onlookers. Hearing about a prize, Ava's competitive spirit ignited. She grabbed Leo and signed him up, getting in line right behind Dylan and Chloe. All right, you can go ahead, the staff member said with a smile. Have fun. Good luck, Chloe, Ava called, waving her little fist in the air. Chloe turned and gave her a sweet smile before walking into one of the entrances without hesitation. You got this, Dylan. Leo mimicked Ava, shouting, show them the power of the haunted house killer. Screw you. Dylan couldn't hold it in any longer. He flipped Leo off. Then his entire demeanor changed. His face became deadly serious as he strode into the other entrance with determined steps. A few minutes later, a series of screams erupted from within. Help me. I don't want to play anymore. Wah. Dude, stop chasing me. I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry. Chloe, come save me, Chloe. Leo stood outside, hand clamped over his mouth to keep from howling with laughter. He immediately pulled out his phone, opened the voice recorder, and captured the precious sounds of his friend's terror. This recording was blackmail material he could use for the rest of his life. Ava couldn't help but giggle. Seeing the way Dylan had marched in, she had almost believed he really was a haunted house killer. You're so mean, she said, lightly kicking Leo's leg. She could tell he had deliberately set Dylan up in front of Chloe. Dylan had just been unlucky enough to choose the entrance with the most ghosts. It hadn't taken long for the screaming to start. A short while later, the screaming stopped. Chloe emerged, supporting a pale and trembling Dylan. Are you okay? She asked, her voice filled with concern. I'm fine, Dylan said, his voice shaking but still trying to act tough. I just wasn't feeling my best today. A small smile played on Chloe's lips. I know, she said. You were just having an off day. As they came out, Leo noticed Dylan's shirt was soaked. The poor guy must have been scared half to death. A tiny pang of guilt hit him, but it vanished almost immediately. Next group, the staff member called, gesturing for Leo and Ava to get ready. He handed them the red and blue coins. Ava took her coin and took a deep breath, trying to psych herself up. She didn't want to embarrass herself in front of Leo. Leo found her attempt at bravery amusing, but he figured if she got the entrance with fewer ghosts, she'd probably be fine. With Chloe cheering them on and Dylan giving him a death stare, Leo and Ava entered the haunted house. The second Leo stepped inside, his surroundings plunged into darkness. The air filled with the sound of whistling wind and low whispers. Thanks to his enhanced physiology, his night vision was far superior to a normal person's. He moved forward a short distance and quickly noticed that the path was not only winding and complex, but also littered with obstacles. The uneven ground could easily trip someone up. TSK. Looks like I got the easy entrance, Leo muttered. He felt a little worried for Ava. Her side was probably much scarier. He wondered if she could handle it. He picked up his pace, wanting to get to her as quickly as possible. Roar! A grotesque face suddenly lunged out in front of him, reeking of a foul odor. Whoa, working with that kind of stench must be tough. Thanks for your hard work, Leo said, pinching his nose. He patted the actor on the shoulder and walked past him. The NPC. Dude, I'm a ghost. Can you show a little respect? Realizing he was dealing with a tough customer, the actor pulled a walkie-talkie from his pocket. Guys, need backup in Tunnel 2? Repeat, backup in Tunnel 2. Got a live one here. If I don't scare him today, I'm not going to be able to live with myself. A few crackled Rogered came back over the radio. Several NPCs from Entrance 1 immediately dropped what they were doing and headed for Entrance 2. What? Where's my heat? Hee. Ha ha ha. One after another, ghosts appeared in front of Leo, trying every scare tactic in the book. But Leo remained completely unfazed. In fact, he found it kind of funny. Oh, Leo, help me. Just then, Ava's terrified scream echoed from a distance. Leo's nonchalant expression instantly vanished. Sorry, I'm in a bit of a hurry, he said. He broke into a sprint, weaving through the dark passage at an incredible speed. The surrounding NPCs were stunned. What the? Am I seeing things? How could someone run that fast in the dark? Holy crap, he's dodging the obstacles while running. Is he even human? Forget talking, we can't even keep up with him. How are we supposed to scare him? Scare him? He's not even scared of us. I should have just stayed over there and scare the girl. This is pointless. Leo shot past the central area, not even glancing at the mechanism where they were supposed to place the coins. He ran straight into the passage for Entrance 1. Soon he saw her. Ava was huddled in a corner, her head in her hands, ears covered, curled into a tight ball. A ghost NPC stood beside her, having taken off his mask, trying to coax her out. Come on, kid, I took the mask off. It's not scary anymore. See? Just look at me. I'm not scary now. You even stepped on my foot earlier, and I didn't say anything. Look, how about I just walk you to the exit? I promise, no more ghosts on the way. The NPC was at his wit's end. The girl just wouldn't move, no matter what he said. He had no idea what to do. Click! A sound made the NPC turn his head. His jaw dropped. There stood Leo, phone out, camera on, snapping picture after picture of the terrified Ava. An opportunity to see Ava this scared was rare. It had to be documented. What? You think it's cruel to take pictures of her when she's so pitiful instead of comforting her? Please, if she wasn't this pitiful, I wouldn't even bother taking the picture. Click, click, click. The camera flash strobed relentlessly as Leo fired off a series of shots. The NPC, standing nearby, was dumbfounded. Dude, what is wrong with you? Aren't you two a couple? Shouldn't this be the part where you play the hero, pull her into your arms, and whisper sweet nothings? Why are you taking pictures? The flashing lights finally broke through Ava's terror. She cautiously turned her head, her hands still clamped over her ears, terrified of any sudden noises. Hey, perfect, a full-face shot. The moment Ava's head turned, Leo's finger slammed down on the shutter button, capturing her face. Her pretty features were flushed, her expression pitiful, yet her eyes held a hint of confusion. To Leo, she looked like a lost little deer. A few seconds later, the confusion in Ava's eyes cleared, replaced by shock, then humiliation, and finally, pure rage. She shot to her feet, launched herself across the floor, and tackled Leo. Leo, delete those pictures right now, she shrieked, her voice frantic. She clawed at him, all fear forgotten. There was only one thought in her mind: destroy Leo's phone. Annihilate it completely. She couldn't allow even the slightest possibility of those photos surviving. The NPC was frozen in place. A moment ago, Ava had been a helpless little rabbit he felt bad for scaring. Now, looking at her, it was hard to tell who was scaring whom. Leo, if you don't delete those photos, I'm done with you. I swear, I didn't get any good ones. I'll swear on a stack of cilantro. Go to hell. You don't even eat cilantro. I'm warning you, don't pinch me. Holy crap, are you biting me? Ava's teeth sank into Leo's hand. She looked up, her eyes blazing with fury. Are you going to delete them or not? I didn't take any. He would die before he deleted them. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The NPC stood to the side, completely lost. Seeing their scuffle escalating, he cleared his throat. Excuse me. Maybe you two should take this outside. You shut up. Ava whipped her head around and glared at the NPC. I'll deal with you for scaring me later. The NPC's mouth twitched. He wisely said nothing more. His mother had taught him never to mess with an angry woman. But damn, this girl's mood swings were insane. Her cowering in the corner must have been an act, right? Seeing that Ava was only getting more worked up, Leo's eyes landed on the prop cane in the NPC's hand. An idea sparked. Hey man, can I borrow that? Huh? Wait, hey. The cane was snatched from his hand. The NPC's world was crumbling. Who let these two weirdos in here? Did the people working the entrance not know you weren't supposed to let mentally unstable people into a haunted house? But what happened next left him truly speechless. Seizing a moment when Ava was distracted, Leo lightly tapped the back of her head with the cane. The girl instantly went limp and passed out. Leo grinned. It worked. Low-tier skill, cheap shot. When using a blunt weapon from behind, guarantees a stun effect. He had only tapped her lightly, but she crumpled immediately. The force was just right, enough to knock her out, not enough to cause any harm. Without this skill, he probably would have misjudged his strength and actually hurt her. But then again, without cheap shot, he never would have thought of this solution in the first place. Thanks. Dude, what did you just... The NPC took the cane back from Leo, completely bewildered. What was going on? How would a light tap knock her out? What was wrong with these people? Leo gently lifted Ava onto his back, walked to the central mechanism, placed their coins inside, and completed the challenge. Dylan and Chloe were waiting for them outside. Dylan was looking much better, almost back to normal. When they saw Leo carrying Ava out, they rushed over, concerned. Is she okay? What happened? She's fine, Leo said, fabricating an excuse. She just got a little too excited and fainted from lack of oxygen. The next second, Ava stirred. Ugh, where am I? She mumbled. She remembered fighting with Leo over his phone. And now she was outside the haunted house, and on his back. To be honest, it was pretty comfortable. Leo flinched. She's awake already? But made sense. The duration of cheap shot stun was proportional to the force used. He'd only tapped her, so a few minutes of unconsciousness was pretty impressive. He quickly set Ava down on a nearby bench, his face a mask of concern. Ava, are you okay? You scared me to death. The staff member said you fainted. I was so worried I just carried you out. I'm so glad you're all right. Ava rubbed her head, looking at him skeptically. I thought you were taking pictures of me, and I was trying to get your phone. What are you talking about? Leo's expression turned grave and righteous. You were already passed out when I found you. Why would I take pictures of you then? What kind of person do you think I am? He sounded genuinely hurt. Ava started to doubt her own memory. Was she mistaken? Dylan stood by, watching Leo's performance with a deadpan expression, completely speechless. You gotta be kidding me. Ava might not know what kind of person you are, but I sure as hell do. You definitely did something shady. Well, I guess we could settle this by looking at Leo's photo gallery, right? Dylan said casually. Leo, my man, for the sake of your own integrity, I'm sure you can handle that little inconvenience, can't you? Leo froze, turning to Dylan with a look of utter betrayal. Are you serious, dude? Can't you let it go? I set you up once. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. But Dylan didn't care. He was going to seize this opportunity for revenge. Hearing Dylan's suggestion, Ava turned her gaze back to Leo. If he was innocent, he should have no problem showing her his photos, right? Unless there was something in there she wasn't supposed to see. I'll only look at the first 3 photos, Ava said, holding up 3 slender fingers. She didn't want to invade his privacy. All he had to do was show her the first 3. Leo's eye twitched. Forget the first 3. The first 30 photos in his gallery were of Ava. If she saw that, he'd be skinned alive. Hold on, Ava. I just need to talk to Dylan about something, Leo said. He grabbed Dylan's arm, pulled him aside, and whispered urgently, Bro, for real. Help me out here. Dylan shot him a withering look. In your dreams. You should have just apologized to Ava while you had the chance. I have an audio recording of you screaming in the haunted house. What? You son of a... Keep your voice down. Help me out. Unless you want that audio to end up in our class Discord server. Compared to Dylan's audio file, Leo valued the photos of Ava much more. Dylan gritted his teeth. He couldn't believe Leo had played him like that. Fine, but you have to delete the audio. No copies. You could trust me on this. Deal. In a conversation that lasted less than a minute, a new pact was forged. After their secret transaction was complete, Leo walked back with a look of perfect innocence. Dylan was the first to speak. Ava, I've given it some serious thought, and I just know, based on my understanding of Leo, that he is absolutely not the kind of person who would do something like that. His tone was forceful, his conviction absolute. Ava just blinked, ignoring him completely and glaring at Leo instead. Does he think I'm an idiot? In the span of a few seconds, Dylan's entire attitude had flipped, and not subtly. If Ava had only been suspicious before, she was now 80% certain she hadn't remembered wrong. Why she had passed out afterward was still a mystery, but she was positive Leo Evans was involved. She stood up and walked over to him, pinching a piece of flesh on his side, a sharp, vicious twist hidden from the others. I'll let you off the hook for now, she whispered, her voice a low threat. But we're settling this when we get back. Leo's mouth twitched. He rubbed his nose and shot a death glare at Dylan. Useless. It's all your fault. You and your ham-fisted acting. Dylan looked back, completely innocent. How is this my fault? Chloe gently nudged Dylan. Your acting is really terrible, she murmured. Dylan was speechless. Was it really that bad? After a short break, a still fuming Ava dragged Leo away, while Dylan and Chloe went off to find another ride. None of them noticed a man with an unremarkable face, standing not far away, watching their every move. The man was Wyatt Kane, sent by Marcus Lynn to surveil Ava Reed. For the past week, he had been observing her movements without a moment to rest. And it was mind-numbingly boring. Her routine was maddeningly normal. School, breakfast, lunch, an evening walk by the river with that kid, Leo. She even ran off to a professor once to report Leo for skipping class to go to a land cafe. This past week, Wyatt had been bored to death. Seriously, Wyatt muttered to himself, taking a bite of a corn dog. A world-class assassin, and I'm stuck on glorified babysitting duty. He stared at Ava. I should just kill them and be done with it. Did Julian Reed really leave some kind of ace in the hole with that girl? With his skills, no one could detect him. He was a killer in the shadows. When he appeared, it was for the fatal blow. Meow. Bad man. A soft meow broke his concentration. Wyatt froze, looking down to see a small white cat staring up at him. Shoo, go on. I'm hungry myself. He assumed the cat wanted his food and waved a hand to dismiss it. Meow. Bad man. Reggie let out another cry and darted away, following the scent of his owner, Leo. He had heard what Wyatt said. He had to go tell Leo there was a bad man. Geez, this amusement park needs to do something about its strays, Wyatt grumbled, watching the cat run off. He paused. The direction the cat was heading. Wasn't that? Meow. Master. Leo heard the familiar call and turned. A white blur was streaking toward him. He was confused. He's back already? Did he get tired of exploring so fast? Oh. Ava recognized the little white cat and opened her arms, calling out in a gentle voice, Reggie, what are you doing here? In the next second, Reggie, who had been making a beeline for Leo, veered at the last possible moment, changing his trajectory to leap straight into Ava's arms, nuzzling into her warm embrace. Leo. Traitor. Reggie rubbed against Ava's chest, then turned to Leo and let out a series of insistent meows. The meaning flooded into Leo's mind, and his relaxed expression slowly tightened. He casually glanced in the direction Reggie had come from. Sure enough, there was a man in a baseball cap, chewing on a corn dog, his eyes flicking between him and Ava. Is that their cat? Wyatt was surprised. He hadn't realized the white cat wasn't a stray, but belonged to Leo and Ava. He quickly shrugged it off with a smirk. So what? It's not like the cat could tell them he was an assassin. Leo quickly looked away, reaching out to stroke Reggie's small head. Congratulations, he said softly. You just earned yourself a major reward. He leaned in. Extra salmon treats when we get home. Meow. Salmon treats. Reggie's eyes lit up. He knew his master would reward him. Leo didn't look at Wyatt again. He didn't know who the man was or what he wanted, so he wasn't going to make any sudden moves and tip his hand. But one thing was clear. The man's target was most likely Ava. And that alone, regardless of who he was, made him Leo's enemy. Why did you bring Reggie and not tell me? Ava complained lightly, stroking the cat's soft fur. Leo gave a helpless smile. I didn't bring him. He snuck into my backpack. I didn't even realize he was there until I'd already left the house. Ava gently patted Reggie's head, chiding him softly. You can't do that again, understand? His backpack is so dirty and stuffy. What if he'd gotten sick? A vein throbbed on Leo's forehead. He was about to retort, How is my backpack dirty? But then he remembered that Ava had just barely forgiven him for the photo incident. Now is not the time to provoke her. Meow. I understand. Reggie lifted his little head and meowed agreeably, his attitude a complete 180 from how he behaved with Leo. Two-faced cat, Leo thought. What a suck-up. After that, the two of them went on every thrilling ride the park had to offer. Bumper cars, the roller coaster, the giant pendulum ride they called the Vortex. Ava gradually grew bolder. She was timid on the first roller coaster ride, but by the end, she was dragging Leo on it again and again. While they were on the rides, Reggie would obediently curl up in Leo's backpack in a storage locker. As soon as they got off, he'd hop out and leap into Ava's arms, rubbing his head against her cheek. Before they knew it, the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over them and stretching their shadows long across the pavement. Leo, let's go on the Ferris wheel, Ava suggested suddenly, her eyes full of anticipation as she looked at the towering structure. Without waiting for a response, she grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the entrance. Leo didn't mind. He'd never been on a Ferris wheel either. In fact, just like Ava, he'd hardly ever been to an amusement park. Soon, they were settled in a cabin. As the Ferris wheel began its slow ascent, the city lights of Ethelberg spread out beneath them like a glittering carpet. Leo gazed out the window, mesmerized. It was the first time he'd seen his city from his perspective. Ava sat across from him, clutching Reggie, her face tense. She had no interest in the view. The wheel had climbed 2/3 of the way to the top when Ava took a deep breath. Leo, she said softly. He looked up. Her eyes, red-rimmed and nervous, met his, and his heart gave a sudden, powerful jolt. What is it? Leo had a feeling he knew what was coming, and his pulse began to race. Ava's grip on Reggie tightened unconsciously. She bit her lip, hesitating. After a moment, as if she had finally made up her mind, she summoned her courage. The girl stared directly into Leo's eyes, her words slow and clear, each one landing in his ears with impossible weight. Do you, like me? The words exploded in Leo's ears like a thunderclap. His pupils constricted. He sat frozen across from Ava, his heart hammering against his ribs. He never imagined she would find the courage to ask him that question directly. He knew she must have agonized over this, planned this moment for a long time. What's wrong with you? Ava's eyes went wide before she quickly looked down, a blush flooding her cheeks. She was too shy to meet his gaze. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm just asking if you like me. I never said I like you, so don't go getting a big head. Edo. Ava thought she'd misheard. She started to lift her head, but halfway up, she felt herself being gently pulled into a warm embrace. The last rays of the setting sun bathed them in golden light. The Ferris wheel continued its slow rotation, as if time itself had slowed to a crawl. They were at the very apex of the amusement park, but neither of them spared a glance for the scenery outside. Leo had moved to her side of the cabin, his arms wrapping around her slender waist. He breathed in the faint, pleasant scent of clementine from her hair. Meow. Reggie let out a happy purr and, with impeccable timing, hopped out of Ava's arms, allowing their embrace to tighten. He scurried to the side and covered his eyes with his paws, though he left a tiny crack to peek through. Ava's head rested on Leo's shoulder, her mind blank. She still couldn't process it, or maybe she thought she'd heard him wrong and needed to confirm it one more time. What? What did you just say? Her voice trembled with a fragile hope. I said, I like you. Leo's hold on her grew stronger, his voice unwavering. I really, really like you. Hearing those words, Ava's final defenses crumbled. Unable to control her emotions any longer, she hugged him back with all her strength, as if trying to merge herself with him completely. Her shoulders shook with tiny, silent sobs, but a blissful smile bloomed on her face. You're not lying to me, are you? No. If I'm lying, may I never eat cilantro again for the rest of my life. You don't eat cilantro anyway. I do occasionally. Ava gave a tearful laugh and lightly punched his chest. If you dare lie to me, she threatened softly, you're dead. Okay. Leo pressed his cheek against her hair, his voice full of affection, but his heart was a tangle of complicated feelings. His original plan had been to wait until he completed the system's special grade mission before confessing to Ava. After all, he was still living under the threat of being erased by the system. But now, he couldn't restrain his feelings for her any longer. And if that was the case, why should he? The world was full of all kinds of people, and for whatever reason, Leo and Ava had happened to fall for each other. It wasn't destiny. It was simply because they were meant to. The Ferris wheel began its slow descent. They remained in their embrace, cherishing the feeling, unwilling to part. Leo gently stroked her hair. Ava, he whispered, can you give me 1 week? A confession. That's something I should be the one to do. 1 week from now. I promise I'll show you just how much I like you. A wave of sweetness washed over Ava. She leaned against his shoulder, her face flushed as she murmured, even if you don't say it, I can feel it. Leo chuckled, teasing her. Or do you want me telling people that you were the one who chased after me? What do you mean? I chased you. Ava quickly lifted her head and pushed him away slightly, though not with any real force. They were still impossibly close. I haven't agreed to be with you yet, she said, puffing out her cheeks stubbornly. And who knows if I'll say yes in a week. It all depends on your performance. Meow. That's right. Reggie's cry drew their attention. Only then did they remember they weren't alone in the cabin. There was a little white cat watching them. Gently scooping Reggie up, Ava stroked him absently, her thoughts elsewhere as the Ferris wheel came to a stop and the door opened. They stepped out. Ava fanned her still-burning face with her hand and walked ahead, not knowing how to face Leo right now. He watched her go, a smile playing on his lips, which was then replaced by a flash of determination. 1 week. Leo murmured, a decision solidifying in his heart. He would complete the special grade mission within a week. He would help the Reed family defeat the Fong Alliance. Only by eliminating the threat of being erased by the system could he be with Ava without any reservations. He hadn't planned on getting involved in their war, but things were different now. Julian's plan was too slow. At his pace, it would take at least 2 weeks to crush the Fongs. Leo couldn't wait that long. He had told Ava 1 week, and 1 week it would be. He'd have to discuss the specifics with Julian first. He didn't want to mess up any of his existing strategies. It was already getting late. For the students' safety, the university wouldn't let them stay out all night. The charter buses were already waiting at the park entrance. After nearly a full day, they were exhausted but satisfied, having ridden everything they wanted to. Leo and Ava walked out of the park one behind the other. He scanned the staff members at the gate and noticed that Kane was gone. He must have gone to handle business, Leo thought. He still had no idea what Julian had sent Kane here to do. Meanwhile, a few miles from the amusement park, in a suburban industrial zone, Kane was lying prone in a patch of tall grass, his body concealed. Not far ahead stood a large factory, the constant hum of machinery echoing from within. His phone vibrated. Kane's eyes remained fixed on the factory as he slowly reached into his pocket and answered the call. What's the situation? Julian's voice came through the line. It's just like the intel said. There's a factory here, confirmed to be one of the Fongs. Can you get inside? No go. It's guarded. But it's probably what you think it is, their gun and ammo manufacturing plant. All right, come on back. I'll figure out how to take it down later. Julian hung up. Kane took a few long-range photos of the factory with his phone, checked the time, and slipped away into the darkness. Sometime later, sitting on the bus, Leo looked out the window just in time to see Kane, dressed in a maintenance uniform, hurrying back toward the park entrance. Watching the direction Kane had come from, Leo's eyes narrowed in thought. As evening fell, Leo walked Ava to the main gate of the Reed family estate. It had been a fun day, but an exhausting one. By the time she was home, Ava could feel the fatigue deep in her bones. Yet her spirits were soaring. She held Leo's hand tightly, unwilling to let go. Now that they had confessed their feelings, neither of them wanted to part. Seeing this, Leo gently pulled her into a hug. Go get some rest, he said softly. I'll come see you tomorrow. Ava hugged him back, her face warm. She managed, her voice a soft hum. A security guard at the gate saw the scene and quickly covered his mouth, his eyes wide with shock. He stealthily snapped a photo of their embrace and sent it to the family secure group chat. Image: holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Is the young miss really dating someone? Photoshop. Definitely Photoshop. Is it real or not? I just saw the pic and almost had a negligent discharge. I've seen that guy before. He came with the young miss to see Mr. Reed. In an instant, the Reed family's private chat exploded. Julian was still out, coordinating operations. The constant buzzing of his phone finally made him check it, and he saw the photo. His eye twitched. No matter how much self-control he had, he couldn't help but feel annoyed. I'm out here fighting a war, and you two are having a romantic moment at my front door? Expressionless, Julian typed out a rare message in the group chat. You all have nothing better to do? The chat went instantly silent. Anyone who knew Julian understood. The boss was not in a good mood. Julian put his phone away with a cold snort. The family members around him were bewildered. He'd been in a perfectly fine mood a second ago. What had he seen on his phone to make him so angry? They were all dying of curiosity about what was happening in the group chat, but didn't dare check their phones in front of him. The suspense was killing them. Back at the gate, Leo and Ava reluctantly separated. A thought struck Leo, and he slipped off his backpack, handing it to her. A question mark appeared over Ava's head. Why are you giving me your backpack? Reggie's asleep inside. Leo explained with a smile. Let him stay with you tonight. I'll pick him up tomorrow. With what he had planned next, bringing Reggie along would be inconvenient. Oh, Ava didn't ask why. She was happy to have Reggie stay over. She'd always wondered what it would be like to sleep while holding him. It was probably comfortable. He was so fluffy, definitely better than a pillow. Well, I'm going now, Ava said, giving him a small wave. She hugged the backpack and turned, walking back toward the estate. She saw the look in the guard's eyes as she passed, and, feeling a blush rise, picked up her pace. She practically ran to her room, tossing the backpack aside and flopping onto her bed. Burying her face in her comforter, she let out a sound like a boiling kettle. He actually likes me, Ava murmured, wrapped up in her blankets with only her head peeking out. It still felt like a dream. The confession on the Ferris wheel, the hug, his words. The scenes replayed endlessly in her mind. She had a feeling she wouldn't be sleeping tonight. Third minute of being apart. I miss him. Ava used to laugh at people who were lovesick. She never thought she'd become one of them. She picked up her phone, intending to call Leo, but a 99+ notification from the family group chat caught her eye. Curious, she opened it and scrolled up. And then she saw it. The photo the guard had taken. Under the dim evening light, she and Leo were in a gentle embrace, her head resting on his shoulder, her face radiating a joyous smile. How could they? Ava's face turned scarlet. They had secretly taken a picture and posted it for the whole family to see. As she read through the messages, her cheeks felt like they were on fire. Suddenly, she remembered. Her parents were in that group chat, too. But it was probably fine, she reasoned. Her parents rarely checked the family chat anymore. They couldn't be bothered with family business these days. Their phones were probably off while they were on their second honeymoon somewhere. She tapped on the picture again and quietly saved it to her phone. She made a mental note of who had taken it. She would get her revenge slowly when she had the time. Tossing her phone aside, she hopped off the bed. She needed a shower to cool down. Not far from the Reed estate was a bustling street lined with food stalls, brightly lit and teeming with people. The roadside barbecue stands were at their peak hour. People sat on small stools, eating kebabs, drinking beer, and talking about everything and nothing. Leo had always found these places fascinating. You could overhear conversations about anything, from the stock market to family disputes. Some were even bold enough to discuss the 3 great families of Ethelberg. If you were lucky, you might even see someone discussing their academic thesis over beer and skewers. In an inconspicuous corner, a man with an ordinary face and a baseball cap sat alone. A few lamb kebabs and a bottle of beer were on the table in front of Wyatt Kane as he ate slowly. With Ava back inside the estate, his surveillance for the day was over. He couldn't very well follow her inside. That would be a suicide mission. Every day around this time, he would come to this food stand near the estate to eat barbecue and enjoy a moment of normal life. The spot was relatively secluded, and few people came, which suited him just fine. He didn't like eating in crowded places, a habit from his years as an assassin. He was used to living in the shadows. Hey, 10 lamb kebabs and another beer, please. You got it. Find a seat. I'll get that right on the grill for you. A vaguely familiar voice sounded behind Wyatt. He frowned, about to turn and see who it was. Before he could, the person walked right up to his table and sat down across from him, a wide smile on his face. Sorry, it's pretty crowded. Mind if I share your table? Leo asked cheekily. Wyatt didn't speak. His eyes widened as he stared at Leo, his mind reeling in shock. What is he doing here? Is this a coincidence? No, it can't be. Wyatt quickly scanned the area. There were plenty of empty tables. Leo had deliberately chosen to sit with him. It was obvious he'd been made. But when? How? Wyatt racked his brain, but couldn't figure out where he'd slipped up. But there was no time to think about that now. He stared at Leo, this teenager he'd never given a second thought. Now, the kid was sitting in front of him like an old friend, casually popping the cap off a beer bottle with an opener. Only then did Wyatt realize that this seemingly ordinary young man was far from simple. Ignoring Leo, Evans might have been his most fatal mistake. Why so quiet? I didn't inconvenience you by sitting here, did I? Leo took a swig of beer, his voice deceptively thoughtful. Ever since Reggie had tipped him off, Leo had been paying close attention to Wyatt Kane's movements, noticing that the man followed him and Ava everywhere they went. It wasn't until Ava returned to the estate that Wyatt finally stopped tailing them and came to this barbecue stand. In Leo's eyes, this was a good thing. It meant the man's target was only Ava. He, Leo, had been overlooked, and being overlooked meant he was in the perfect position to strike. Wyatt sat on the small stool, and in response to Leo's question, he slowly lifted his head. From under the brim of his baseball cap, a pair of sharp, murderous eyes met Leo's, making no effort to hide his intent. His hands drifted toward his waist as if to draw something. Leo's brow twitched. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," he said lightly. "We're not far from the Reed estate, and given my relationship with them, if I turn up dead right on their doorstep, how do you think the Reeds would react?" Wyatt's hands froze. A moment later, a low chuckle escaped him. He continued the motion, pulling a pack of cigarettes from his pocket instead. He offered one to Leo. "Smoke." Leo paused, surprised. So it was cigarettes, not a gun. "Thanks," he said with a smile, taking it but not lighting it. He wasn't about to smoke anything an enemy handed him. Wyatt lit his own and took a long drag. "How did you find me?" he asked flatly. "That's a secret. So what do you want now?" Wyatt's eyes were locked on Leo. "Drag me to the Reeds? Or is this just a warning?" Just as Leo was about to speak, the owner brought over his lamb kebabs. He took the plate, tried a piece, and nodded. "Not bad. You don't have to be so tense," Leo said. "Maybe I just came for some barbecue." "You think I believe that?" "Fine. First, you have to tell me who you work for. The Phones or the Lins?" Wyatt hesitated for a fraction of a second. He couldn't expose the Lin Syndicate right now. The Phone Alliance was the perfect cover. "The Phones," he said quickly. Leo, mid-bite, paused and looked up at Wyatt, a small, knowing smile on his face as he shook his head. "You shouldn't have hesitated. So you're with the Lins. Did Marcus send you?" "I told you, I'm with the Phones." "Got it. So Marcus told you not to reveal your connection to the Lins. Why? This has nothing to do with the Lin Syndicate. Does that mean you're important? A key asset for Marcus." Wyatt shut his mouth. A cold sweat was beating on his forehead. He didn't dare say another word. This kid, he didn't care what you said. He only trusted his own deductions. The more Wyatt spoke, the more holes Leo found. He reminded Wyatt of one person, Julian Reed. In that moment, a tidal wave of realization crashed over Wyatt. He understood. Just as he was Marcus Lin's ace in the hole, Leo Evans was Julian Reed's. And he was even more dangerous than Julian, because Julian operated in the open. But Leo? If he hadn't willingly sat down right in front of him, would Wyatt have ever paid any real attention to this ordinary-looking student? Would anyone in Ethelberg? Wyatt's entire assessment had shifted. Leo Evans had to die. If Leo walked away from this table alive, not only would he and the Lins Syndicate be exposed, but the Lins would gain a formidable new enemy. After just a few moments of verbal sparring, Wyatt was certain Leo was not simple. "All right, knowing you're from a Lin Syndicate is enough." Leo didn't press further. He quickly finished the rest of his kebabs, stood up, and clapped his hands. He pointed at Wyatt. "Hey, boss, he's paying for mine." Without waiting for a response, he walked away, feeling a secret thrill. So this is what it felt like when Kane stuck him with a bill. Wyatt stared daggers at Leo's retreating back. He downed his beer in one gulp, silently walked over to the owner, and paid for everything. Then, pulling his cap down lower, Wyatt Kane began to follow Leo, melting back into the shadows. He would find a deserted place and kill him. If Leo lived, he and the Lin Syndicate were in deep trouble. As the night deepened, Leo continued to wander the streets. Wyatt followed, ducking into alleyways and using the thinning crowds for cover. The streets were getting emptier. Suddenly, he saw Leo get into a taxi. A jolt of alarm shot through him. If Leo went back to the Reed estate now, he would lose his chance. Wyatt quickly flagged down another car, jumped in, and snapped at the driver, "Follow that taxi." "Don't lose it." "Dude, are you shooting a movie or something? Let's talk." "Here's 200. You got it, boss." "Buckle up." The driver floored it, sticking close to Leo's taxi. Wyatt watched the direction they were heading and breathed a small sigh of relief. They weren't going back toward the Reed estate. But then he frowned. Leo's car was heading further and further from the city center toward the suburbs. What is he planning? Wyatt wondered. Why would Leo be heading to the outskirts of town at this hour? Still, it played right into his hands. The suburbs were quiet, desolate. The perfect place to make his move. A little while later, Leo got out of the taxi on the side of the road, pulling out his phone and typing a message. Then, right in Wyatt's line of sight, he casually strolled into a dense patch of woods. A thrill shot through Wyatt. He paid his driver, got out, and silently drew a dagger from his belt, following Leo into the trees. He rarely used a gun to kill. He preferred the feeling of a blade slicing through flesh. A bullet just couldn't compare. As the darkness deepened, Wyatt's figure blended seamlessly with the environment. He carefully matched his pace to Leo's, suppressing the sound of his footsteps, ensuring he made no noise that would give him away. The distance between them shrank. 10 yards. 5. 3. close enough for a killing blow. Now, Wyatt screamed in his mind. Gripping his dagger, he lunged, swiping at Leo's neck with lightning speed. The blade, darkened by the night, was a black flash cutting through the silent air. As a veteran assassin, his movements were swift and silent, his attack impossible to defend against. But to his astonishment, just as he launched his attack, Leo, who had his back to him the entire time, let a small smile touch his lips. In the next instant, Leo dropped into a crouch with an impossibly fast and angled movement, expertly dodging the fatal strike. At the same time, a long-awaited notification sound echoed in his mind. Ping. Host has triggered a mission. Please defeat the opponent using a cold weapon. Complete the mission to receive a reward. Failure will result in a penalty. The long-overdue system mission had appeared. Leo's mouth twitched. Couldn't you have picked a better time to add to my problems? It didn't affect his plan, though. After ducking under Wyatt's blade, Leo rolled forward several times, putting distance between them. Man, you finally made your move. My legs were starting to get sore from all that walking, Leo said, standing up and brushing the dirt from his clothes. He looked at Wyatt with a mocking grin. After his meticulously planned strike had missed, a chill ran down Wyatt's spine. Seeing Leo's triumphant smile only deepened his unease. He suddenly remembered Marcus Lynn's warning. Be careful of Leo Evans. Only now did he understand why Marcus had said such an odd thing. You knew I was following you all along. Wyatt's face was grim. There was no turning back now. Even knowing it was a trap, he had to spring it. He had to kill Leo. Nope. Your tracking skills are impressive. I didn't spot you once. Leo had been keeping an eye out the whole time, but had seen nothing, which had made him wonder if Wyatt had given up. But I was willing to bet you'd try to kill me tonight, because your identity can't be exposed, right? So whether I saw you or not didn't matter. Knowing that was enough to lure you here. Wyatt sighed. He really wasn't cut out for mind games. But he couldn't figure it out. What gave Leo the confidence to lead him here alone? Then he saw Leo slowly pull a small, exquisite knife from his belt. The blade glinted in the faint moonlight, but Wyatt could tell at a glance it was a cheap piece of junk you'd buy at a hardware store. Leo had started carrying it a long time ago, just in case. You think you could take me on with that toy? Wyatt found it both amusing and insulting. He felt he was being underestimated. I'm not a piece of trash like Scar, and I won't be careless with you again. Leo didn't reply. The playful look vanished from his face, replaced by an unprecedented seriousness. He knew Wyatt was skilled. Otherwise, he wouldn't have triggered a system mission. But there was one crucial difference between them. Leo had a backup plan. He had a margin for error. Wyatt did not. Under the cloak of night, Leo sprang forward, his movements agile as he rushed Wyatt. The small knife in his hand seemed to come alive, sometimes striking like lightning, other times weaving like water. An expert. Wyatt was surprised, continually dodging Leo's attacks while launching his own counters. The sharp clang of steel on steel rang through the woods. Wyatt's dagger was ferocious, but Leo's seemingly random moves repeatedly neutralized his attacks. Wyatt was already sweating. He couldn't comprehend where Leo had learned these skills. And how was it that, despite the darkness, Leo's vision seemed completely unaffected? Every strike was precise, aimed at a vital point. As the fight dragged on, Wyatt's brow furrowed deeper. He found he couldn't get a handle on Leo's rhythm. Every attempt to counter was artfully evaded. More importantly, didn't this kid get tired? At this intensity, even the most conditioned fighter would show signs of fatigue. But Leo hadn't even broken a sweat. He just kept attacking relentlessly, giving Wyatt no room to breathe. How is this possible? Wyatt couldn't believe he was being suppressed by Leo. Was this really a college student? He didn't know that Leo was gritting his teeth, pushing himself to the limit. His enhanced physiology gave him superior stamina and night vision, but this was his first real fight. He lacked experience. Several of Wyatt's deadliest attacks had been dodged by a hair's breadth. Finally, he spotted an opening, a flaw in Wyatt's form. Leo lunged, his knife plunging into the assassin's arm. Ugh! A grunt of pain escaped Wyatt. He tried to counter, but Leo had already pulled back, standing a few yards away, breathing heavily. System, hurry up and make the call. This counts as a win, right? Leo was at his limit. He could keep fighting and win, but not without taking some damage himself. He wasn't keen on getting cut up. After a moment, the system's chime finally sounded. Ping. System adjudication complete. Congratulations, host, for defeating the opponent and completing the mission. You will receive a random reward, drawing random reward. Congratulations, host, for obtaining the intermediate skill, psychological acuity. A flood of knowledge poured into his brain, but Leo ignored it. He let out a sharp breath, tossed his knife aside, and slowly raised one hand, holding up 3 fingers. Seeing this, Wyatt's eyes lit up. He thought Leo had reached his physical limit and was giving up. Forgetting all about the feel of a blade, Wyatt decisively pulled out his pistol, thumbed off the safety, and aimed it at Leo, a cruel smile spreading across his face. The knife fight was over. Now it was time for firearms. Ignoring the pain in his arm, Wyatt advanced slowly, his gun trained on Leo. He still had questions, especially about the Reed family. He was sure he could get a lot of information out of him, but he noticed that there was no fear in Leo's eyes. Only that same mocking look. 3 fingers became 2. I once told Marcus Lynn I hate having guns pointed at me. Wyatt's eyes were cold. He ignored the words. Leo's life was in his hands. All it would take was a twitch of his finger. Just then, Leo's final finger slowly dropped. Bang! Arg! A deafening gunshot ripped through the night. The bullet tore through Wyatt's gun hand, sending the pistol clattering to the ground in a spray of blood. Wyatt clutched his mangled hand, his face a mask of disbelief as he scanned the darkness around them. He turned back to Leo, his voice shaking with rage. You have a sniper? What? You think I'm an idiot? Leo asked, a laugh in his voice. You really think I'd lure you all the way out here for a one-on-one duel? If it wasn't for that stupid system mission, I wouldn't have wasted my time fighting you hand-to-hand. I would have just had you shot. Wyatt gritted his teeth. He knew it was over. There was no chance. With Leo's skills, he'd never be able to take him hostage, and based on that shot, he knew the hidden sniper was a professional. Leo in front of him, a sniper in the shadows. He had no way out. Damn it. Wyatt stared at Leo, 1,000 curses screaming in his mind. You cheat. This was a knife fight. Why the hell do you have a sniper? And when the hell did you set one up? A few hours earlier, after leaving the Reed estate, Leo had called Julian. Julian, still fuming, saw the call and answered irritably. What? You got some nerve, kid. Hugging my sister in my front gate in broad daylight. What, you calling to gloat? Leo paused. How did Julian already know about that? It wasn't important. He quickly told Julian about Wyatt Kane, and Julian's tone immediately shifted, recognizing the gravity of the situation. You're saying someone is watching Ava, ready to make a move? Julian's voice was flat, but Leo could feel the murderous intent behind it. That's right. I don't know who he is, so I was hoping to borrow some of your people, Leo said, getting to the point of his call. He always aimed for absolute certainty. Julian, however, didn't answer right away. After a long silence, he spoke in a low voice. Most of my people are being watched right now. I can't pull anyone to help you. Except one. Who? Kane. It took a lot of effort to get him off the phone's radar, but he's only free for today. Is he near the amusement park? Out in the suburbs? Yes, how did you know? Julian was stunned. Kane's mission was a secret. He'd even managed to hide it from the phones. How did Leo know? Leo explained what he'd seen at the park, and it clicked for Julian. There's a phone Alliance Arms factory out there, he added. I sent him to scout it out. He's still in the area. Good. I'll contact him. With that, Leo hung up. If he was getting help from Kane, there was no need to waste any more time talking to Julian. Remember, you have to keep that guy. Hello. Hello. Leo, you son of a bitch. Julian raged. He hadn't even finished his sentence before Leo hung up on him. Whatever. With Kane there, nothing should go wrong. He had been about to tell Leo to keep the man alive for questioning, but it was too late now. Leo then called Kane. They quickly devised a plan to lure Wyatt Kane out to the suburbs. When Leo heard Kane had a sniper rifle, his eyes lit up. He was brimming with confidence. Don't you worry, Kane. I'm an expert when it comes to bait. I guarantee I'll get that guy out to the suburbs. No problem. After that call, Leo went to find Wyatt, which led to the current scene. When he got out of the taxi, Leo had specifically messaged Kane. Do not fire until my finger drops. Back to the present. Leo stood over Wyatt and delivered a vicious kick to his stomach, knocking him to the ground. He followed up with a series of brutal stomps. I told you I hate having guns pointed at me. A kick to the back. And you pretended to be with the phones? Why not say you're with the Royals while you're at it? Another kick to the chest. With an IQ this low, Marcus Lynn dares to use you as his ace? Pathetic. With a final kick, Leo spat on Wyatt's curled up, unresisting form. From the woods, Kane emerged, a black sniper rifle in hand, a weary expression on his face. Seeing Leo's triumphant posture, anyone who didn't know better would think he was the villain. Kane walked over and glanced at the unconscious Wyatt. Lynn Syndicate, he asked flatly. How'd you know? Never seen his face before. The phones aren't the type to hide an asset like this. It's exactly the kind of thing Marcus Lynn would do. Leo's eye twitched. No wonder this guy was so desperate to kill me. The second you show your face, everyone knows who you work for. Why was out cold? Kane drew a short blade from his belt, preparing to end his life. Hey, wait. Leo stopped him. He still had a use for Wyatt Kane. Kane looked at him, confused. He couldn't imagine what use Leo could have for the man. Interrogation won't work, he said. Don't expect to get anything about the Lins out of him. He assumed Leo wanted information and was warning him that men from these families would never betray their own. The consequences, being hunted by their former allies and ostracized by the entire underworld, were too severe. Who said anything about interrogation? Leo replied, exasperated. Kane was smart, but not that smart. Since he had decided to take down the Fong Alliance within a week, every action he took now had to inflict maximum damage. You put on a "since you're so slow, I'll spell it out for you" expression. Look, Kane, Leo began. You came here to check out the Fong's arms factory, right? Right. And this guy, Leo said, pointing at Wyatt, is from the Lin Syndicate, correct? Yes, so? Leo sighed. How is he not getting it? So, what do you think would happen if we blew up the Fong's factory and left this guy there for them to find? Do you think the Fongs might assume that Marcus Lin is taking advantage of the chaos? That maybe he's teaming up with the Reeds to take them out? After all, Marcus stands to benefit if the Fongs fall. Kane froze, Leo's words exploding in his mind like a thunderclap. He stared at Leo in utter disbelief. You son of a bitch. You are one devious son of a bitch. Kane never would have thought of a plan so ruthless. In that moment, he felt like Leo was the one who truly belonged in the criminal underworld. But there's a problem, Kane said, the practicalities setting in. How do the two of us take down an entire factory? It's guarded. We can't get close, let alone get inside. Leo smiled. Who said we have to go inside? You brought a good amount of gear with you this time, right? Yeah, basically everything I could carry. It's stashed in an employee locker at the park. Any explosives? Some, but not much. Not enough to take down the whole factory. But you have some. Kane's eyes started twitching. What was Leo planning? He wanted to blow up the factory? But he didn't have enough explosives. And how'd he even get them inside? Leo, stop messing around. If we screw this up, it'll be a huge mess. Kane thought Leo must have lost his mind. If Leo could actually pull this off, Kane would, right then and there, pledge his loyalty to Leo. He watched as Leo pulled off his own belt and expertly tied up Wyatt, then effortlessly hoisted the unconscious man over his shoulder. Leo looked at Kane and flashed a grin. Relax, Kane. You just give me the explosives. The rest, you just sit back and enjoy the show. Half an hour later, outside the Fong Alliance Arms factory, Leo and Kane, each with a backpack, hid in the woods. Behind them, Wyatt Kane lay securely bound on the ground, sleeping the peaceful sleep of the unconscious. I must be out of my damn mind going along with this insane plan, Kane muttered, scanning the factory guards through a pair of binoculars. So what's the plan now? I still think we should go back and discuss this with Julian. He waited for a response, but heard nothing. Kane turned his head. Leo was gone. Holy crap. Did he just charge into the factory? Panic seized Kane. If something happened to Leo, he'd have hell to pay with Julian and Ava. He was about to move forward to check when he heard a rustle nearby. Kane tensed, whipping around to see Leo casually strolling out of the dense woods. Seeing Leo safe and sound, Kane let out a breath of relief. Where the hell did you just go? He whispered. He also felt a little embarrassed. A full-grown man had vanished from right beside him, and he hadn't noticed a thing. For some reason, he felt that Leo was completely different from the person he'd fought in the bar. He couldn't put his finger on it, but a gut feeling told him that, as things stood now, he couldn't beat Leo in a fight. Relax. Just want to find some help, Leo said nonchalantly. He pulled a takeout container from his backpack and started eating. I gotta say, your staff meals aren't half bad. Barbecue pulled pork. Kane's mouth twitched. Now is not the time to be eating. You found help? Who? Were they getting here? Who could possibly help us at this hour? Kane asked, completely baffled by Leo's actions. Don't worry. We just have to wait. Leo took another bite, then looked at Kane. By the way, you're not going to eat your portion, are? No. Great. I'll give it to my little helper later as a reward. Kane was speechless. He was on the verge of a breakdown, but there was nothing he could do. If Leo said wait, he'd wait. It's not like it would kill him. So they waited. About 15 minutes later, squeak, squeak, I'm back. The sharp squeaking broke the silence. Leo's head perked up, and he stood. A small mouse darted out of the woods and ran up to him, chittering nonstop. 36 people inside, you say? Did you see those really long support pillars in the four corners? You can get the explosives in? You can get your friends to help? That's great. What? There's black powder in there, too. Gunpowder. Kane stared, his jaw hanging open, so wide you could fit a light bulb in it. What in the ever-loving hell am I seeing? Is Leo having a conversation with a rat? I've been drugged. That's it. Someone tell me I've been drugged. No, wait. Leo must be the one who's been drugged. Kane's face grew grave. He walked over, grabbed Leo's arm, and said with utmost seriousness, "Leo, let's go to the hospital. No matter what, we can't give up on treatment." "Leo, you're the one who's sick," Leo shot back. "Give me the explosives." When Kane didn't move, Leo simply took his backpack, pulled out the blocks of C4, and placed them in front of the little mouse. "This is too much for you to carry alone. Go get your friends." Squeak, squeak, you got it. Then, before Kane's astonished eyes, countless rats swarmed out from all directions. They systematically divided up the explosives, each taking a small piece. "All right, go. Be careful not to get spotted. Place these on the support pillars." After Leo gave his instructions, the rats sprang into action, scurrying toward the factory with their cargo. "Be careful. Come right back after you planted them. Don't get hurt," Leo called after them, a thoughtful reminder. When he was done, he turned to see Kane staring at his phone with a look of utter despair, his thumb tapping the screen. "What are you doing, Kane?" "Booking a hospital appointment." "You were right. I think I might be sick." Leo's eye twitched. After a moment, he said, "Actually, I was born with a special ability. I could talk to animals. Low-tier skill, animal affinity." Leo had to admit, he might have been a little too harsh when he first got this skill. Turns out, it was a god-tier ability. The explanation was absurd, but Kane couldn't think of any other possibility. Otherwise, one of them was having a psychotic break. He sighed, put his phone away, and looked at Leo. "I remember you used to want nothing to do with our family conflicts. Why do you seem so eager to take down the phones now?" An image of Ava's shy face on the Ferris wheel flashed in Leo's mind. A small smile touched his lips. "People change, don't they?" Kane nodded thoughtfully and said no more. He sat with Leo, waiting for the rats to return. It was completely surreal. Two grown men, in the middle of the night in the suburbs, waiting for an army of rats to finish planting explosives. Kane felt like his life had taken a sharp turn into fantasy. Half an hour later, the rat army returned. Leo thoughtfully presented Kane's meal container as a reward. "Eat slowly. There's not much, so everyone share." Squeak, squeak, "Thank you. Such polite little rats." Leo stood up. "The explosives are all set on the support pillars inside the factory. If one goes off, they'll all go off in a chain reaction. The pillars will collapse, bringing the whole factory down with them. Then we just dump our friend from the Lynn Syndicate there and get the hell out." Kane nodded along, then asked, "So how do we detonate them?" Leo smiled confidently and pointed to a window high up on the factory wall. "See that? From here, we use the sniper rifle to set one of them off." Kane immediately raised his binoculars and looked. His face fell. "What do you think I am? At this distance, I'd have to shoot through the window and hit the explosive precisely. Who the hell can make that shot?" "If you can't, then I will." Leo said it, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. He grabbed the sniper rifle, leaped effortlessly onto a thick tree branch, settled the rifle on his shoulder, and peered through the scope. "All right," he said lightly. "I forgot to mention my other special ability. With a sniper rifle, I never miss." As the words left his mouth, with Kane staring up in dumbfounded shock, Leo gently squeezed the trigger. Bang! Right, he can talk to rats, so being a perfect shot with a sniper rifle is totally normal. The hell it is. Kane watched as Leo jumped onto the branch, barely took any time to aim, and just fired. His mind was screaming. Does he really think he never misses? Kane was a damn good marksman himself, but he knew he couldn't make that shot through a window at that distance, hitting a small explosive target. Leo's shot was just going to expose them. Kane was about to yell for Leo to get down and retreat. Boom! A massive explosion roared from behind him. Kane froze solid. No, it can't be. He turned his head mechanically. The factory, which had been perfectly intact moments ago, was now engulfed in a sea of fire. A series of secondary explosions continued to rock the night. Lucky shot. Looks like they had a lot of gunpowder inside. Gave a little extra kick. Perched in the tree, Leo surveyed the distant inferno with a satisfied nod. The plan was a success. He dropped lightly from the branch and handed the sniper rifle back to Kane, who didn't take it. He just stood there, staring. It had actually blown up, but that was impossible. How could it have blown up? A storm of emotions churned inside Kane. His mind could only form one word. Unreal. What are you staring at? Leo shoved the rifle into his arms. Now's our chance. Go dump that guy over there while everyone's distracted. What are you waiting for? Leo was getting impatient. He couldn't show his face, so of course Kane had to do the dirty work. Huh. Oh right. Kane snapped out of it. Whatever had just happened, the factory was gone. All that was left was to plant Wyatt Kane as the scapegoat. He hoisted the bound assassin onto his back and headed toward the blaze. With his skills, slipping in and leaving a body behind in the chaos would be easy. Leo watched him go, clapped his hands together, and let out a long breath. For the first time in a while, he felt tired. Tonight had been a big job. The past few days had been so quiet he'd almost gotten used to the action. Looking at the raging fire, he nodded to himself. This was the kind of insane life he was supposed to be living. He pulled out his phone to check the time. It was already 2 in the morning. He had a ton of missed notifications. Crap! Leo's eyes widened. Ava had sent him over a dozen messages, and he hadn't replied to a single one. Ava, Leo, are you home yet? Ava, let me know when you get home. Okay? Ava, Leo, what are you doing? Ava, Leo, you better answer me right now. Ava, Leo, you haven't answered me in 2 hours. You are so dead. You are absolutely dead. Ava, you better not let me see you tomorrow. Ava, you're not in trouble, are you? Ava, call me when you see this. I'm worried. Reading the first few messages, Leo's heart sank. He'd been so focused on blowing up the factory, he'd completely forgotten about his phone. The last message in particular made his chest tighten. He could perfectly picture Ava lying in bed, staring at her phone with a worried expression. He hesitated for a moment, then dialed her number. It was late, but he had to let her know he was safe. The phone barely rang twice before she picked up. Leo, are you okay? Why are you only calling me now? Ava was clearly still awake. The concern in her voice was a warm balm on his soul. I'm fine. I ran into Kane on my way home. He dragged me out for barbecue and drinks and wouldn't let me leave. I only just saw your messages. Leo threw Kane under the bus without a second thought. Are you home now? Yeah, almost there. In about half an hour. Oh, okay. Well, next time, don't go drinking with Kane. He's a bad influence. If he tries to make you go drinking again, you just tell him I said you're not allowed. Okay, Leo agreed with a smile, his voice incredibly soft. I'm sorry I made you worry. I'll be faster to reply next time. Who was worried about you? Don't be so full of yourself. Now that Ava knew he was okay, her prideful side reemerged. I was just bored tonight, that's all. Right. Well, you're probably not bored anymore, are you? I'm going to bed now. Okay, good night. I'll see you tomorrow. MMG, good night. She quickly hung up. Leo put his phone down, a smile spreading across his face. It was the first time someone had ever worried about him like that. It was a special feeling. Just then, Kane returned, his mission to frame Wyatt a success. He couldn't hide the excitement on his face. He knew that tonight's operation would create the perfect opportunity for the Reed family, maybe even allowing them to drag Marcus Lynn into the fray. And the person responsible for all of it was the seemingly ordinary teenager standing in front of him. Who would have ever guessed? Kane's intense stare was making Leo a little uncomfortable. He cleared his throat. So Kane, I need you to do me a favor. Kane smiled broadly. Anything. Just name it. I'll do my best. Leo then proceeded to explain, in detail, his phone conversation with Ava and how he had used Kane as a scapegoat. As Leo spoke, the smile on Kane's face slowly froze, then vanished completely. So yeah, if Ava gives you a hard time about it, I'll need you to cover for me, man. Don't you dare call me man. You're the man. Kane was so angry he jabbed a finger at Leo's nose. He finally understood. When Leo needed something, it was Kane, man. When he didn't, it was just Kane. The problem was, if he took the fall for this, Ava would definitely hold it against him. Life will be difficult for a while. No way. I can't take this one for you. And don't call me your brother. I really can't help you with Ava. You're sure you won't help? It's not that I won't. I can't. Then I'll just have to tell Ava you dragged me out in the middle of the night to blow up a factory. You son of a bitch. Kane was stunned. How could a person be so shameless? I dragged you out? Wasn't this whole thing your plan from start to finish? Leo's lips curled into a malicious grin. Look, Kane, if you tell Ava that I did this, you think she's going to believe you? I try to be nice. Calling you man was a courtesy. This isn't a negotiation. It's a notification. If you don't agree, I'll go straight to Ava and tell her everything. This is payback for that burrito you made me buy, and for scaring me with that toy gun. I keep a ledger, you know. It's true that I was out drinking and eating barbecue. And it's true that I was with you in the middle of the night. So, I don't even need to discuss it with you. I could just tell Ava. We'll see who she believes, Leo said, a sly smile playing on his lips. You won't help me? I don't need your help. Kane stood frozen. If Leo really twisted the story like that, he would have no way to defend himself. If the story was just that he kept Leo out late drinking, he'd face some minor retaliation from Ava. But if it became that he dragged Leo out to blow up a factory, that was a whole different level of trouble. Given Ava and Leo's current relationship, he'd likely earn a permanent spot on her blacklist. The worst part was, he had no choice. Whatever story Leo told, he would have to play along. Looking at the infuriatingly smug expression on Leo's face, Kane's earlier good mood evaporated, replaced by the feeling of having swallowed something disgusting. How in the world did Ava fall for such a conniving jerk? There was no way out. A man has to know when to fold. Kane forced a pained smile. It's no big deal. I'll cover for you. Cover for which one? The drinking or the factory bombing? You must be joking. We were just drinking tonight. What factory? Hearing this, Leo finally beamed with satisfaction. As expected of Julian's right-hand man, he knew how to read a room. You're on the right path now, Kane. All right, take me home. It was the middle of the night, and Leo was ready for bed. Can't you just get a ride yourself? What? You want to take me to blow up another factory? The car's over there. I'll drive you. Kane felt utterly defeated. Being pushed around by Ava was one thing. He could chalk that up to his affection for her. But now he was being bullied by Leo using Ava's name. And the worst part was the guy had just done the Reed family a massive favor, so he couldn't even get mad at him. Life was hard. Before they left, Kane destroyed all the equipment on site, aside from the sniper rifle, leaving no trace behind. In the car, Kane drove while casting curious glances at Leo, who was sitting in the passenger seat, staring idly out the window. Seriously, who taught you how to shoot like that? Kane was genuinely curious. The shot Leo had made from a tree. Kane himself couldn't have done it. In fact, among all the snipers he'd ever met, only a handful of the military's absolute best could have pulled it off. And Leo had done it without a proper brace, firing almost instantly, as if he knew without a doubt that the bullet would hit its mark. Leo had been expecting the question. I told you, he said nonchalantly. It's a special ability. Cut the crap. The rat thing, I don't get it. But this is definitely not a special ability. I learned it on vacation with my dad in Hawaii. You think I haven't seen Detective Conan? Leo's eye twitched. He knew he shouldn't have taken that shot himself. He sighed dramatically. Look, Kane, does it really matter where I learn my skills? As long as Ava's around, I'll never be an enemy to the Reed family. Isn't that enough? Kane was taken aback for a moment, then chuckled. He didn't press any further. Everyone had their secrets. As long as Leo was on their side, that was all that mattered. So that special ability, can you teach me? I want to learn. You mean the sniping? Sure, I can teach you sometime. And the ability to talk to rats. I want to learn that too. That one I really can't teach. Not unless you also have a system, happen to see a mugging on your way to school, and get lucky with the skill lottery. Hearing that, Kane didn't push it. Learning Leo's sniping technique would be a huge gain. The rat thing was just too weird anyway. Even if Leo offered to teach him, he wasn't sure he'd want to learn. He was afraid someone would see him talking to rats one day and have him committed. A short while later, Kane dropped Leo off at his apartment complex. The moment Leo was out of the car, Kane slammed on the gas and sped back to the Reed estate. What's his hurry? Leo mumbled, watching the car peel away. He went inside his small apartment and immediately took a shower. The fight with Wyatt had left him covered in dirt and grime. For someone with minor neat freak tendencies, he'd endured it for a long time. Lying in bed, Leo sent Ava a quick message to let her know he was home. Then he plugged in his phone, tossed it aside, and pulled the covers over his head, falling into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, Kane arrived back at the estate to find Julian gone, likely out on an operation. Not wasting any time, Kane called him directly. The phone rang for a long time before Julian answered, his voice thick with exhaustion. What is it? Did everything go smoothly with you and Leo? We blew up the phone's factory. The words jolted Julian wide awake. He pulled the phone away from his ear and checked the time. 3 a.m. He must be dreaming. I sent you to scout the place, and you're telling me you blew it up? And wasn't Leo with you to deal with an assassin? How the hell did that turn into bombing a factory? Kane, are you joking with me? No, it was all that kid, Leo. He's unreal. Kane quickly recounted everything that had happened in the suburbs, including how he'd ended up taking the fall for Leo with Ava. After a long silence, a heavy sigh came from Julian's end. You're telling me Leo beat one of the Lynn Syndicate's assassins with a knife he bought at a hardware store? Yeah, I was shocked too. The kid's fighting skills are insane. And then, he had you and an army of rats help him move explosives into the factory? I know, I thought I was losing my mind. The guy can actually talk to rats. And finally, he jumped into a tree and, with a level of marksmanship you've never seen, detonated the explosives and destroyed the entire factory. That's right. I swear that shot was pro level. Best of the best. Julian listened, rubbing his temples. He really needed some sleep. Or maybe Kane did. Kane, don't tell anyone else about this except me. Don't worry, I know. We have to protect Leo's identity. No, I'm worried they'll have you committed. Julian said it flatly and hung up. He walked to the sink and splashed cold water on his face. Kane's story was insane, but he believed it, because Leo himself was insane. It wasn't surprising that he did insane things. The important thing now was how to best leverage the factory's destruction. Julian's mind raced, plotting. Leo's actions tonight were a clear signal. He was entering the game. If Leo is willing to get involved, maybe we can speed things up. Julian looked at his reflection in the mirror and murmured, "This is the perfect opportunity to call the old man back. We might be able to wipe out the phones in one fell swoop." With that, Julian took out his phone, found a familiar number, and, ignoring the late hour, dialed it. The plan had to change. "What did you say?" The factory in the suburbs was bombed. In the Feng family residence, Victor Feng's roar of anger sent his subordinates trembling. Who did it? Julian Reed. How did he find out about it? And where did he get the manpower? Victor frowned, trying to make sense of it. If it was Julian, how had he pulled it off? Victor had men watching all of the Reed family's core members and key assets. He should have been notified of any significant movement. Kane had been an oversight. Julian had staged a major diversion that had drawn most of Victor's attention, allowing Kane to slip his surveillance. But could Kane alone destroy such a large factory? That was absurd. If Kane had that kind of ability, the Reed family would have taken over Ethelberg long ago. Patriarch, by the time we arrived at the factory, it was too late. Many of our brothers were killed instantly, and many more are seriously injured in the hospital. A subordinate reported, his face etched with grief. It was brutal. An entire factory gone in an instant. It was an act of total war. Little did they know, Leo couldn't have cared less. As far as he was concerned, they were all criminals working in an illegal arms factory. Wiping them out was practically a public service. We also found this person at the scene. With that, several men carried a stretcher before Victor Feng. Lying on it was the man Kane had left behind, Wyatt Kane. He has multiple burns and is still unconscious. We ran a facial recognition scan and discovered. Discovered what? Victor's voice was low and dangerous. Seeing his subordinate hesitate, he felt a sense of dread. The man trembled under Victor's gaze and forced himself to speak. His name is Wyatt Kane. 10 years ago, he was the top assassin for the Willow Creek Syndicate, an Apex family at the time. It seems he was later recruited by Marcus Lynn. He didn't need to say any more. The implication was clear. Wyatt Kane was Marcus Lynn's man, and Marcus Lynn's man had been found near the bombed factory. The pieces clicked into place for Victor Feng. Was Marcus taking advantage of the chaos? No, it was worse. Marcus Lynn had teamed up with Julian Reed. They were going to eliminate the Fengs first, then settle the score between themselves. Of course, that explains Julian's reckless moves, Victor realized. He clenched his fists, his teeth grinding in fury. The Lynn Syndicate and the Reed family have joined forces. They're trying to kick us out of the game before the Wong family arrives from the gray zone, so their own positions aren't threatened. Such a brilliant scheme, he spat. Publicly, they're at each other's throats every day, but behind the scenes, they're in bed together. A wave of helplessness washed over him. If the Reeds and the Lynns had truly allied, his chances of winning were infinitesimally small. Victor scanned the faces of his family members, a deep sense of sorrow in his eyes. Is this it? Is this the end of the Feng alliance? Below him, his men bowed their heads, their expressions bleak. If their patriarch had lost hope, what could they do? Well now, it looks like I've come at a bad time. A teasing voice cut through the silent hall. All eyes turned toward the entrance. A young man with a smile on his face was strolling into the Feng residence. Behind him followed a woman holding a pistol, her beautiful face streaked with faint traces of blood. Her feral eyes swept over the Feng family members. Who are you? How did you get in here? Where are the guards? Protect the patriarch. In an instant, the hall was on high alert. Men drew their weapons, forming a protective circle. No need to be so tense, the man said, smiling at Victor Feng, completely unfazed by the guns pointed at him. I bear you no ill will. I'm here to discuss a partnership. Patriarch Feng, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Donovan Vance, from New York City. Donovan was polite and refined. He paused, as if remembering something. You're surely aware of the powers in NYC, and what the name Vance represents there. Victor Feng's eyes widened. Hearing the words Vance and NYC in the same sentence, he didn't hesitate. Lower your weapons, he roared. Now! The Feng family members didn't understand their patriarch's panic, but it was clear that this Donovan Vance was someone they could not afford to provoke. They obeyed, lowering their guns. Victor pushed through his men and walked forward, his expression grave as he stared at the newcomer. As the head of a major family, Victor Feng was well aware of the major powers in the country's center of influence. The Vance Dominion of New York City was, without question, the supreme power. Their strength surpassed even that of an apex family. They were untouchable, not just for families like his, but even for the Wong family from the Gray Zone. Patriarch Feng is a wise man. This makes our conversation much easier. Seeing the tension dissipate, Donovan's lips curved into a playful smirk. He walked casually to a sofa and sat down as if he owned the place. He picked up a fresh apple from the table and took a crisp bite. The armed woman stood silently behind him, her gaze as sharp as a knife, contemptuously sweeping over every member of the Feng family as if they were insects. Victor looked directly at Donovan, his voice laced with caution. "I wonder, Mr. Vance, what business brings you all the way from New York to my humble home?" "As I said, I'm here to offer a partnership." A glint appeared in Victor's eyes. "What kind of partnership?" Donovan chuckled, a cunning light in his eyes. "I don't need to tell you what kind of situation your family is in. I can help you survive this crisis. But, naturally, I have my own conditions." As expected, Victor's heart sank. He knew Donovan wouldn't help him for free. He took a deep breath. "And what are your conditions, Mr. Vance?" Donovan stood up and walked over to Victor, leaning in close. "When the Feng Alliance becomes the apex family of Ethelberg," he said in a low voice, "you will give me your family's charter. And from that day forward, the Feng Alliance will swear fealty to the Vance Dominion." Victor's face hardened. Surrendering the family charter meant handing over their very existence, placing them at the mercy of another. "What's the matter, Patriarch Feng?" "Unwilling." Donovan saw the hesitation on his face. "From what I know of the situation, your family has no chance of winning. You will be crushed by the Reeds. When that happens, will your principles still matter? All I require is your loyalty. You will only be called upon when the Vance Dominion makes its bid to become a sovereign syndicate. I will not interfere in your daily affairs, nor will I use you as cannon fodder." Hearing this, Victor's expression softened slightly. His greatest fear was being used as a disposable pawn. Donovan returned to the sofa and watched Victor silently, waiting for his answer. The hall fell silent, the only sound the crunch of Donovan's apple. The members of the Feng family all looked to their patriarch. His choice would decide the fate of them all. Victor Feng's expression was a storm of uncertainty, his mind a battlefield. Agree, and the Feng Alliance would be completely under the thumb of the Vance Dominion. Refuse, and he'd have to fight the Reed family to the bitter end, a battle he was almost certain to lose. After a long silence, Victor let out a slow breath and looked at Donovan Vance. "Why me, and not the Reeds or the Lynns? If the Vance Dominion needs a proxy to wage its wars, surely the Reeds and the Lynns are more suitable candidates." Donovan scoffed. "Of course, the Reeds and the Lynns are more suitable." He picked up 2 apples from the table, placing them one by one in front of Victor. "But they have a Marcus Lynn and a Julian Reed, don't they?" Donovan's face darkened slightly. "I have to admit, if those 2 had been around during the foundational years, the roster of today's sovereign syndicates might look very different." He gestured to the apples. "One is an ambitious, ruthless tactician. The other is a strategic prodigy who can orchestrate a war from the shadows. With 2 men like that in the picture, frankly, I'm not confident I could bring them a heel. And they certainly wouldn't be willing to be brought to heel." So, Donovan continued, his voice dripping with condescension, "The Feng Alliance in its current state is the easiest to control. And I have absolutely no concern that you'll cause me any trouble, because you simply don't have the power to." The words were a direct, undisguised insult, a calculated debasement of the Feng Alliance. The Feng family members present bristled with silent fury, but none dared to speak. Victor Feng couldn't refute it. It was the truth. Under his leadership, facing the encroaching Reed family and the opportunistic Lynn syndicate lurking in the shadows, the alliance was on the verge of collapse. Though he was getting old, Victor hadn't lost the shrewd judgment that had kept him alive for decades. He knew which choice was best for the survival of his family. With a heavy sigh, the half-gray-haired old man stood and bowed deeply before Donovan Vance, lowering his once proud head. "The Feng Alliance pledges its loyalty to Mr. Donovan Vance." He specified Donovan, not the Vance Dominion. Donovan recognized the distinction and let out a booming laugh. "If you were 10 years younger, Victor, I might have actually placed you in the same category as Julian Reed." Victor kept his head bowed, silent. Seeing their leader's decision, the rest of the Feng family knew their only choice was to follow. One by one, they mirrored Victor's posture, bowing low to Donovan. "We pledge our lives in service to Mr. Donovan Vance." From this day forward, Victor Feng's orders were no longer the final word. Donovan Vance's authority now superseded his own. Ha 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 ha. Donovan was pleasantly surprised by their pragmatism. Excellent. Get up, Mr. Phone. We're all one family now. He made a show of helping Victor to his feet, then turned to the woman holding the gun. Rose, put that away. What kind of family points guns at each other? The woman named Rose silently holstered her weapon, her obedience to Donovan absolute. A bitter taste filled Victor's mouth. If I may ask, Mr. Vance, what is your plan? How will you help us destroy the Reed family? I won't be getting personally involved, Donovan stated immediately. I have my own rivals back in New York. I also can't mobilize the Dominion's forces. However, I can lend you a unit from my personal security detail. They'll be enough to catch the Reeds off guard when the final battle comes. Victor was dissatisfied with the meager offer, but he kept it from his face. Mr. Vance, you may not be aware, but I believe the Lynn Syndicate and the Reed family have already joined forces. I'm afraid. The implication was clear. Your handful of men isn't enough. Oh, they've allied? That's unexpected. The intelligence Donovan had received suggested the two families were at each other's throats. He stroked his chin, pondering for a moment. All right, I'll lend you Rose. Donovan gestured to the silent woman. With her on your side, failure is not an option. Victor was taken aback, his face a mask of confusion. This Miss Rose. She is ranked 15th on the Hero Index, Donovan said with a casual air, raising an eyebrow at Victor. Call sign, Crimson Rose. The simple sentence detonated in Victor's mind like a thunderclap. The three indices. The Hero Index for mercenaries, the Shadow Ledger for assassins, and a legendary black and white index, whose records were wiped from all public domains, known only to a select few. Only those truly in the know understood the immense weight those names carried. Anyone on the Hero Index was a top-tier operator from a major private military corporation, commanding astronomical fees. From what Victor knew, anyone ranked in the top 30 had a body count that defied imagination and possessed skills that bordered on superhuman. He shot a wary glance at Rose, grateful he hadn't provoked her earlier. He had no doubt she could take on his entire family single-handedly. Numbers, home field advantage, none of it would matter. In this day and age, scientists were pushing the boundaries of genetic engineering, seeking to break through human physical limitations. While no official results were public, these enhancements were already being traded in the gray market, especially among the big PMCs. With Rose's help, the Phone Alliance's chances of victory increased exponentially. At the same time, Victor was astounded that Donovan Vance could command the loyalty of someone from the Hero Index. That should be more than enough, shouldn't it? Donovan's smile was predatory as he leaned in close to Victor's ear, his voice a low whisper. Rose's abilities, combined with your family's resources. Don't tell me you still can't take down the Reeds and the Lynns. Remember, what I want is for the Phone Alliance to become a sovereign syndicate. If you can't achieve that, then there's no need for the Phone Alliance to exist at all. Rose, we're leaving. With that, Donovan turned and walked away with Rose in tow. As he left, he told Victor to contact him when the time was right, and Rose would be there to help. Safe travels, Mr. Vance. Victor watched Donovan's retreating figure, his expression grim. A deep sigh escaped him. An alliance with a tiger is a dangerous game. He had no idea if he had just saved the Phone family or damned it. Meanwhile, in an apartment complex somewhere in Ethelberg City, Leo Evans stood frozen in front of the bathroom sink, a toothbrush hanging from his mouth. He was completely still, as if petrified. After a long moment, he finally snapped out of it, his face contorting in rage as he bellowed. You son of a bitch, System, what did you just say? You damn System, say that to me one more time. What was the penalty for failing those previous missions? Penalty for mission failure. Suspension of all hosts' acquired skills. Suspension duration is relative to the host's degree of mission incompletion, not death. Correct. Only the novice mission and special grade missions will threaten the host's life. Then why the hell didn't you say so sooner? You didn't ask? Leo laughed, a bitter, angry sound. He'd woken up this morning and, on a whim, decided to ask the System what the penalty for failure was. All this time, he'd assumed it was deducting from his lifespan or another straight-up erasure attempt. And you're telling me, this is it? And here I was, scared shitless every single time I did a mission. Leo gritted his teeth, feeling like he'd been played for a fool. A big part of it, he admitted, was that the novice mission's penalty had traumatized him, making him subconsciously assume every penalty would be just as severe. He thought the System was building up to some catastrophic punishment, but it turned out he was just scaring himself. You useless System, he thought. Even if I didn't ask, couldn't you have volunteered the information? Facts aside, doesn't the System bear some of the blame here? Don't get angry, don't get angry. No need to get worked up over something so small. Leo's usual smile returned to his face as he casually tossed the toothbrush he'd just snapped in half into the trash. With his mood soured by the system, Leo couldn't be bothered to make breakfast. He flopped on his couch and decided to order some takeout. Huh, they have Inferno burritos this early? Leo's eyes lit up. He hadn't expected to get his favorite food truck breakfast. He placed the order without hesitation. After a moment's thought, he opened the DoorDash chat for his order. Leo at driver, could you grab me a drink on the way? Driver, super busy, man. No time. Leo, get one for yourself, too. Driver, what are you drinking, bro? A smirk played on Leo's lips. I liked you better when you were defiant. After arranging for the driver to bring him a Coke, Leo calculated the time. He could squeeze in one game. Gench. Oh nope, wrong icon. Leo moved his mouse. League of Legends, launch. 30 minutes later. Garbage game. Only an idiot would play this again. Leo angrily shut down his computer. He should have just misclicked. The number of cheaters lately was getting out of control, making it impossible for a skilled player like him to even get a kill. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, your food's here. Leo opened the door to find the delivery driver smiling, holding out the Inferno burrito and the Coke. Here you go, man. Remember to leave a 5-star review. You got it. Leo took the food and immediately gave the guy 5 stars. Everyone's just trying to make a living. It was an easy thing to do. After devouring the burrito, Leo went outside and hailed a cab, heading straight for the Reed estate. He couldn't afford to drift along anymore. He was going to do big things. The days of slacking off were over. If he was going to get involved in the syndicate war, he had to act the part. 20 minutes later, a blue cab pulled up to the gates of the Reed estate. Dude, are you kidding me? You're charging me $50 for this shorter ride. Leo's eyes widened. Had taxi drivers gotten this brazen? This was straight-up robbery. It's the going rate, kid, the driver said calmly. He'd seen Leo was a student and figured he could fleece him. Last night, I had a guy going out to the suburbs, didn't even blink at paying $200. Yesterday, some idiot paid me $200 just to tail another car. $50 for you is more than fair. Leo stared at the driver for a long moment, then pulled out his phone without a word and transferred $50. After getting out and waiting for the cab to drive off, Leo took out his phone again, his eyes fixed on the departing vehicle. Hello, Department of Transportation? Yes, I'd like to report a taxi for price gouging. A 20-minute ride, and he charged me $500. The license plate is... Right. No, thank you. It's my civic duty to help clean up the streets of Ethelbert. He hung up the phone as if nothing had happened and walked into the Reed estate. Strangely, he felt a lot of the Reed family members secretly watching him on his way in. Hey, that's him. The guy who was hugging the young miss last night. Hugging? I saw the pic. It's totally fake. Definitely Photoshop. Don't lie to yourself, man. If it was fake, would the boss have been that pissed yesterday? It's real. So who do you think made the first move? I'd bet my entire life savings it was the young miss. You're on. I'm all in. The family members whispered among themselves. But thanks to his enhanced physiology, Leo's hearing was far better than a normal person's. He heard every word. His mouth twitched. He really didn't understand the mentality of these people. A war had been declared. Shouldn't they be on high alert, the atmosphere tense? Instead, they were gossiping about their own people, even taking secret pictures. Hey, send me a copy of that photo later. And to the guy betting his life savings, you're gonna lose, buddy. Muttering to himself, Leo crossed the main courtyard and entered the house. In the living room, only Julian and Kane were sitting on the sofa, apparently discussing something. Hearing footsteps, Kane looked up. His expression soured the moment he saw Leo. Damn it, I had to take the fall for this kid, and Ava has been giving me the cold shoulder all morning, practically calling me a corrupting influence to my face. You're here, Julian said, turning with a smile. Leo nodded, found a random seat, and poured himself a glass of water. He had a strange feeling of déjà vu. He was starting to feel a little too comfortable here, like it was his own home. Ava's still in her room. Should I call her down? No, let's talk business first. Leo shook his head. He was here to do big things. Oh, go on. Julian's interest was piqued. Leo wanted to talk business? The next second, Leo's words nearly gave him a heart attack. I want to crush the Foam Alliance and end this war. Within 1 week. Puffed. Kane sprayed a mouthful of water all over the floor, whipping his head around to stare at Leo in disbelief. What did I just hear? No. What the hell did this kid just say? Leo ignored Kane, his eyes fixed on Julian. So, is there a way? A week is tight. There's not enough time to arrange a lot of things. Tell me what you need me to do. I'm all in. I'm here to make big moves. In that case, there might actually be a way. Let me think. Kane just stared, bewildered. looking from Leo to Julian and back again. He felt like he was still dreaming. Seriously, guys? You're actually discussing this? Taking down the foam alliance in a week? You're really going to try something that insane? In the living room, Julian was lost in thought. After a moment, he spoke. To crush the foam alliance in such a short time, our options are limited. The most direct approach is a head-on confrontation. However, in our current state, a direct assault would not only be difficult to win quickly, but the family would also suffer heavy losses. We'd lose a lot of good men. Sitting across from him, Leo frowned. Are there other options? Julian was silent for a moment before slowly uttering a few words. Yes, but it's a long shot. We get the Bureau of Syndicate Oversight involved. The Bureau of Syndicate Oversight. Leo's face showed his confusion. What's that? I don't think I've ever heard of it. Kane, sitting nearby, spoke up. The Bureau of Syndicate Oversight, or BSO, is a federal agency established to maintain social stability and prevent the major syndicates, both legitimate and otherwise, from overstepping their bounds. They have immense power. Their job is to monitor and restrain the families, ensuring they don't act recklessly and endanger civilians. The government needs the syndicates to exist, but they're also worried about the fallout from our conflicts affecting normal people. So, they created the BSO to keep us in line. Exactly. And there's a BSO field office right here in Ethelberg, Julian added with a nod. If the BSO were to get involved, all of the foam alliance's dirty, back-alley dealings would inevitably be exposed. At that point, we could work with the Bureau to bring them down directly. Leo's eyes lit up. He hadn't expected such a convenient agency to exist. This was basically like arranging a street fight and then calling the cops on the other guy. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go straight to the BSO. But at his words, both Julian and Kane gave wry smiles. It's not that simple, Julian explained with a soft sigh. The BSO is powerful, but their threshold for intervention is incredibly high. They won't get involved in syndicate disputes unless it's a matter of major importance. A conflict between smaller families like ours, ones that haven't even reached sovereign status, is beneath their notice. Plus, over the years, the BSO has intervened less and less. Rumor has it there are internal problems, though I don't know the specifics. One thing is certain, people with syndicate ties are absolutely forbidden from working there. It's a hard line. You touch it, you die. So this second option is almost impossible to pull off. Leo's brow furrowed again. So we can't just gather evidence of the foam's crimes and report them to the BSO? Useless. Julian shook his head, putting aside the manpower and time it would take to gather that evidence. The real problem is that nobody inside the BSO wants to create more work for themselves right now. The Bureau's founding principles have long been eroded by time. The attitude in there now is, if you can slack off, you slack off. If you can't, you create the conditions to slack off. It's even worse in field offices in smaller cities like ours. Damn, getting paid with taxpayer money to do nothing. Leo's mouth twitched. The favorable impression he'd just formed of the BSO vanished instantly. On top of that, Kane added, sharing what he knew, in recent years, the BSO has started hiring all sorts of external contractors, clerks, psychologists, combat instructors, you name it. Their internal structure is a mess, filled with all kinds of people. But their screening for syndicate ties is still ironclad. They absolutely will not allow anyone from our world to get in. Kane sounded disgruntled. This kind of institutional decay could eventually render the Bureau completely ineffective, which is a bad thing for a family like the Reeds, who try to operate with a degree of integrity. Leo nodded as he listened. Suddenly, a glint appeared in his eye. Wait a second, Kane. What did you just say? The BSO hires psychologists. Yeah, who doesn't have some issues these days? Kane said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. He didn't understand why Leo was asking. Leo's mind was racing. A brilliant plan began to form. He looked directly at Julian and spoke quickly. What if I could get inside the BSO? Everyone's slacking off, huh? Fine. I'll get in there and slack. No, I'll get in there and fix this damn mess. Julian frowned, thinking it over. Your background is clean, so they wouldn't flag you for that. The BSO today isn't as strict about background checks as they used to be. But the key is, how would you get in? From what I know, their combat instructor positions are extremely limited and almost certainly full. And any other position would require a professional assessment. I can get in as a psychologist. Leo cut Julian off, his eyes burning with intensity. Julian. Kane. Both of them stared at Leo, utterly dumbfounded. Do you hear yourself right now? You, Leo Evans, a psychologist? You're the one with the most psychological issues in this room. Kane couldn't believe Leo had the audacity to say something like that. This was the guy who talked to rats. Who was he going to treat? Who was treating whom? Leo scoffed at their doubtful expressions. You guys don't know Jack. I have a system. I haven't even had a chance to use that psychological acuity skill yet. Now's the perfect time. He wasn't just Leo Evans anymore. He was Leo the Shrink Evans. Don't worry. I've studied psychology online. I guarantee I can pass their hiring assessment, Leo said confidently. Julian and Kane, however, were not convinced. Kane's eye twitched uncontrollably when he heard Leo's explanation. You learned it online again? You sure learn a lot of random crap on the internet, kid. Julian rubbed his forehead. He had no idea where Leo picked up all these bizarre skills. But then again, he thought the kid could talk to rats. Was knowing a little psychology really that much of a stretch? Julian quickly organized his thoughts. The psychologist position is likely open, but even if you get in, you'll just be a contractor. How are you going to get the entire bureau to help us? It'll be incredibly difficult for one person to motivate a whole agency, and we won't be able to provide you with any support from our end. Leo just smiled, unfazed. He already had a plan. Don't worry, he said. I've got a way. It's just fixing a broken, lazy bureaucracy, right? Piece of cake. Looking at Leo's smile, Kane suddenly had a very bad feeling. The last time he saw Leo smile with that much confidence was yesterday. And then the phone Alliance's factory blew up. The BSO. It'll probably be fine, right? All right, if you've decided, I'll start working out the details, Julian said. As ridiculous as it sounded, when it came to Leo, he had a strange feeling it might just work. After all, Leo himself was pretty ridiculous. Kane pulled out a laptop and started typing furiously, searching for information as he spoke to Leo. I just checked. The BSO is still advertising for psychologists. You can go for an interview anytime. Perfect. I'm in a hurry. I'll go this afternoon. But what? They require a minimum of a master's degree. And I remember you're just a freshman, right? Do you have a counselor's license? Leo fell silent. Damn, is the job market really this competitive? At this rate, will I even be able to find a job after I graduate? Whatever. I've got the system. Julian saw Leo's predicament and thought for a moment. We can take care of the degree and the license for you. They'll be 80% legit. As long as you actually have the professional knowledge, the BSO isn't likely to dig too deep into the paperwork. Leo looked up at Julian, his mouth slightly agape. In that moment, he truly understood the power a major syndicate wielded. A master's degree, just like that? What shocked him even more was that Julian, right in front of them, pulled out his phone and made a call. I need a favor. A master's degree, plus all the relevant licenses for a psychologist. They have to look real, able to withstand as much scrutiny as possible. I'll send you the information in a minute. How long will it take? Okay, great. Thanks. Julian hung up and smiled at Leo. The documents will be delivered this afternoon. Damn, Leo couldn't think of any other word to describe it. He was honestly a little tempted to just join the Reed family right now. This was too good. Click-clack, click-clack. The sound of light footsteps came from upstairs. The three of them looked up to see Ava coming down, holding Sir Reginald Fluffington in her arms. Oh, Leo, you're here. Ava's eyes lit up when she saw him on the sofa. She hurried down the stairs and ran over to him, her voice full of concern. How much did you drink yesterday? You got home so late. And you, Kane, she said, turning to glare at him. Next time you want to go drinking, don't drag Leo along. You should be ashamed taking a student out drinking. She huffed, still clearly annoyed. Kane's face twisted as if he'd just swallowed something foul. He was speechless. Right. I'm the bad influence, taking him drinking until all hours. Little do you know your precious, innocent student dragged me out to blow up a factory yesterday. Julian watched Kane with amusement. It was rare to see him look so flustered. Since Julian knew what had really happened, he could appreciate the irony of the situation. Hey, it's fine. It wasn't Kane's fault, Leo interjected. We didn't even drink that much, and he was nice enough to give me a cab home. Right, Kane? Leo shot Kane a look, raising his eyebrows. What was that saying? Only the person who framed you knows how truly wronged you are. Why, yeah. We didn't drink much, Kane said through gritted teeth. He really didn't understand what he'd done to piss Leo off so much that he had to be the fall guy. Couldn't he have picked someone else? Hell, make Julian the scapegoat. Ava would never dare to challenge him. But Ava wasn't buying it. She still shot daggers at Kane, but when she turned back to Leo, her expression softened completely. The smile she gave him was one Kane had rarely seen in his entire life. Have you eaten yet? Ava asked, looking down shyly. She had slept in late and hadn't eaten anything yet. Julian, seeing right through his sister, spoke up. Ava, why don't you take Leo to the family dining hall for a meal and show him around while you're at it? He always just comes straight here every time he visits. Then he turned to Leo with a smile. You've got nothing to do until this afternoon anyway. I'll call you when the documents arrive. Leo nodded. He had just eaten an Inferno burrito, but he had a fast metabolism, right? Besides, he was curious to see more of the Reed estate. He'd been here several times, but always went straight inside to find someone. He'd never really explored the grounds. And so, under the watchful eyes of Julian and Kane, Ava led Leo off to get something to eat. As for Reggie the cat, Ava just let him go outside to play. The estate was huge, with a large courtyard where he could roam freely. She'd already told everyone he was her cat, so the family members were all fond of the little white furball. What do you make of him? Julian asked Kane casually after they'd left. Kane's expression turned serious. He considered the question for a moment before answering. Honestly, I can't figure him out. He's completely unbelievable. He's a master of hand-to-hand combat. He's a terrifyingly good sniper. And to top it all off, he can talk to rats. Now he's saying he knows psychology. He's just a college kid. Is it really possible for one person to have so many skills? Kane laid out all his concerns. He also wanted to know what Julian really thought of Leo. Was someone like that really okay to be with Ava? Julian didn't answer right away. He just sipped his water in silence. After a long pause, he seemed to come to a decision. He looked up, his eyes locking with Kane's, his gaze incredibly serious. It's possible. As long as it's Leo, it's normal. As long as it's Leo, whatever he does, it's plausible. Do you understand? Kane was stunned. He understood Julian's meaning perfectly. Leo is absolutely not a problem, and no one is allowed to think he is a problem. Julian was really going all in on Leo. Kane had to admire his conviction. He hadn't known Leo for long, yet he was willing to bet so much on him. If Leo turned out to be a problem, the entire Reed family could face a devastating blow. I trust my judgment, and I trust Ava's judgment, Julian said, his tone firm. He knew exactly what he was doing. A large part of his decision was for Ava. She liked Leo, and he was willing to trust Leo. Therefore, he wouldn't question the unbelievable abilities Leo displayed. In fact, he was even a little excited by them. The stronger Leo was, the better he could protect Ava, which was undoubtedly a good thing for the family. Kane knew that once Julian made up his mind, he wouldn't change it. Besides, Kane's own impression of Leo was good, except for the fact that he was kind of an ass. The two men shared a look of understanding and, by silent agreement, dropped the subject of Leo, moving on to discuss other matters. Meanwhile, Leo was starting to sweat. In the Reed family courtyard, Ava, wearing a pair of pink slippers, walked side by side with Leo, whose hands were stuffed in his pockets. They were heading towards the family's dining hall. Several family members, eager for more gossip, tried to edge closer, but a single sharp glance from Ava sent them scattering. Leo watched them with amusement. Are they really that scared of her? Leo, what were you talking about with my brother earlier? Ava asked suddenly. Nothing much, just casual stuff. Don't brush me off. I'm not an idiot. Ava interrupted, looking up at him with a serious, slightly angry expression. You and my brother have ducked away to talk privately several times, and Kane was there too. I don't know what you're discussing, but it must be something dangerous if you don't want me to hear. And that confrontation you had with Marcus Lynn at the restaurant. There's no way that was just a small misunderstanding. Leo, I'm not that stupid. I know you and my brother are just trying to protect me, but I'm really worried about both of you. As she spoke, Ava's eyes started to glisten, her tone laced with a hint of resentment. Seeing her like this, Leo didn't know what to do. A bead of sweat trickled down his forehead. He had absolutely no experience handling this kind of situation. It was clear their actions had tipped Ava off, but the fact that she'd held it in until now meant she must have been wrestling with it for a while. She must have sensed something was wrong last night, too. The excuse he and Kane had come up with was full of holes. Just as Leo was struggling for a response, Ava looked down and, ignoring the distant onlookers, threw herself into his arms, wrapping her hands around him. I don't want to be protected like this forever, she mumbled into his chest. I'm a Reed. I have a responsibility. I just want to do whatever I can to face this with you all. I won't get in your way. When you tell me to run, I'll run. I won't do anything you tell me not to do. I won't participate in the dangerous stuff, but at least let me know what's happening. I don't want to be kept in the dark anymore, worrying about you all by myself. Ava buried her head deeper into his chest, her voice a soft murmur as she poured out her heart. Leo slowly raised a hand and placed it on her head, gently stroking her hair, a pang of sympathy in his heart. She was right. He and Julian had been so focused on protecting her, on keeping her out of it, but they'd never once considered her own feelings. To be coddled and protected by her family her whole life, without ever contributing anything back. Ava must have felt guilty for a long time. In that moment, Leo made a decision. Okay, he said, his voice gentle. Whatever you want to know, I'll tell you. He didn't want to hide things from her anymore. Whether it was because of their relationship or because she was a member of the Reed family, she deserved to know. And if Julian doesn't agree, I'll beat him up until he does. Really? Ava lifted her head, her eyes red-rimmed as she looked at him, afraid he would take it back. Really? Leo paused, then added, and if your brother has a problem with it, I'll handle him. A brilliant smile spread across Ava's face. She stood on her toes and planted a soft kiss on his cheek. Thank you, Leo, she whispered in his ear, her face flushing slightly. I'm so glad I met you. I'm glad you were the one I chose to confess to, Leo thought, gently holding her. Click, 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 click. The sound of camera shutters filled the air. They both snapped to attention, scanning their surroundings. Who the hell is taking pictures at a time like this? The group of gossiping Reed family members instantly hid their phones, turning their heads to whistle innocently at the sky. Thump. One member's phone slipped from his pocket and fell to the ground, the camera flash still on. Ugh, who the hell turned on my flashlight? Seriously, you guys ought to stop doing that, the man said with a straight face, bending down to pick up his phone before quickly scurrying away from the scene of the crime, still muttering, so weird, how did my flashlight just turn on by itself? Ava's face turned crimson all the way to her ears. She'd been so caught up talking to Leo that she'd forgotten she was surrounded by a bunch of trolls. Mortified, she yelled at them, delete those pictures, all of you. What pictures, young miss? We didn't take anything. They denied it vehemently. No way. A picture of Ava like this, actively kissing Leo? They'd rather die than delete that. This was destined to become a Reed family heirloom, passed down for generations. To avoid getting caught, they beat a hasty retreat, whispering among themselves as they left. Hey man, I didn't get a good angle. Send me one of yours. Venmo me $50 and it's yours. What the F? I got the shot of her kissing him, too. 50 cents. Send it over. Sent. Me too. Start a group chat. $50 to join. And so, without Ava's knowledge, a group chat called the Young Mrs. Relationship Fan Club was quietly formed, populated entirely by the trolls of the Reed family. Come on, aren't you hungry? Leo said, grabbing Ava's arm as she looked ready to chase them down. He couldn't let her destroy such precious photos. He'd have to get copies from those guys later, especially the one of her kissing his cheek. He'd pay any price for that. It was a keeper. Humph. Ava let herself be pulled along, shooting one last resentful glance over her shoulder. It wasn't the first time they'd taken pictures of her, but it was still embarrassing. I'll let them off the hook this time. I'll have my brother deal with them later, she said resentfully. She led Leo onward, and soon they arrived at the dining hall. Miss Ava, you've arrived, a middle-aged man in a suit greeted them. He looked vaguely familiar to Leo. Mr. Evans, it's been a while, the man said with a polite nod, then introduced himself. I am the family's house manager. You can call me Mr. Sue. We met on your first visit to the estate. I remember now. You were the one who served me tea, right? At Mr. Sue's reminder, it came back to Leo. On his first visit to meet Julian, this was the man who had served them. Mr. Sue smiled kindly. Please don't call me Mr. Evans. And you don't have to be so formal. Just call me Leo, Leo said quickly. He still wasn't used to being called that, let alone with such formal deference. Mr. Sue smiled and nodded, always respectful of others' wishes. Mr. Sue has been with our family for a very long time, Ava explained to Leo. He helped my father build this family from the ground up. We all have a lot of respect for him. She put her hands behind her back and grinned at the manager. Mr. Sue, we came to eat. Of course. Please follow me, Mr. Sue said, his face full of fond affection as he led them into the dining hall. Under Mr. Sue's direction, Leo and Ava were soon served a delicious meal. Does everyone in the Reed family eat like this every day? Leo asked, astonished at the spread before him. It was almost all meat, the portions were huge, and you could get refills. He thought back to the garbage they serve in the university cafeteria and could only describe it with one word, shit. A small serving of braised chicken and potatoes at school cost $20, which was basically armed robbery. And it barely had any chicken in it. It was just braised potatoes. Leo decided he would definitely report the school cafeteria. No, wait. Once he got into the BSO, he wouldn't investigate the phone alliance first. He'd investigate the school cafeteria. If the BSO director knew Leo planned to use the entire agency to investigate a cafeteria, he'd probably have him killed. Ava ate much less. Mr. Sue knew her preferences and had arranged for some vegetables for her, instead of the feast of meat and fish in front of Leo. And so, they ate and talked, and Leo told her everything she wanted to know, holding nothing back. Of course, when it came to blowing up the factory, he stuck to the story that Kane had dragged him along. He was an innocent bystander. Oomph. You should stay away from Kane from now on. Don't let him be a bad influence on you, Ava said with a frown. Blowing up a factory sounded incredibly dangerous. The fact that Kane would take Leo to do something like that was just getting more and more out of line. Leo didn't say anything, just sent a silent apology to Kane. Sorry, man. I really am. Let's just call it even for the Inferno burrito and that toy gun incident. I had no choice. Hope you understand. Leo felt a little bit of guilt, but not much. So, you're going to interview at that Bureau of Syndicate Oversight later? For a psychologist position? Ava looked at him, confused. Where did you learn psychology? We're both students. How come you know how to do everything? Yeah, as soon as your brother gets me the documents this afternoon, I'm heading over. So soon. Suddenly, a thought occurred to Ava. She looked up and stared at Leo. When you told me to wait a week, you were planning to help my family take care of the phone alliance within a week, weren't you? Hiss. Leo sucked in a sharp breath, looking at Ava in shock. I don't know who you are, but get out of Ava's body. Ava isn't this smart. Thwack. Under the table, Ava, her face a blank mask, stomped her slender leg down hard on Leo's foot. Say that again. I was wrong. Oomph. Ava snorted. Leo was getting bolder and bolder. Daren't call her dumb to her face. Don't change the subject. Is it true or not? Leo sighed softly, a look of disappointment on his face as he nodded. On the very first day of his grand plan, Ava had already figured it out. He'd been hoping to give her a big surprise when he confessed his feelings. Ava just stared at him. On the surface, she looked annoyed, but deep down, she was happy. Then, I'm coming with you. Her words made Leo look up and meet her bright, serious eyes. Whatever you're going to do, I'll be with you. After everything is settled, then I'll listen to your confession. I know I can't do much, but at least I can be by your side, to help in some small way. Ava's tone was unshakably firm. Now that she knew his plan, she wasn't just going to stand by and watch. That wasn't her style. She didn't want Leo to be the only one making sacrifices for her. Leo looked at her, a profound warmth spreading through his chest. A genuine smile bloomed on his face. Okay, we'll face it together. Whoever runs is a chicken. You're the chicken. I'm definitely not running. Ava shot back, her face blushing as she scolded him. They both couldn't help but laugh. A relationship where neither would abandon the other was a win-win. An hour later, they were back in the main house, explaining everything to Julian. Surprisingly, Julian didn't seem shocked by Ava's desire to participate. It was as if he'd been expecting this day to come. Bro, you agree? Ava was a bit stunned. She had been bracing for a fight with her brother, but she never expected him to agree so easily. Of course I agree. Why wouldn't I? Julian said matter-of-factly. You may be my sister, but you're also Ava Reed, aren't you? You just want to do what you think is right. Why would I disagree? As long as it's a decision you've made after careful thought, what reason do I have to object? Julian smiled, shaking his head at his silly little sister. I've been holding you back your whole life. I'm your brother. You think I don't know what you're thinking? I was just waiting to see when you would finally work up the courage to ask me. It seems Leo has really changed you. Leo rubbed his nose. Julian's reaction had surprised him, too. Ava stood frozen, stammering. So you mean all I had to do was ask, and you would have let me help the family? Of course. In that moment, Ava felt like a complete fool. She puffed out her cheeks, glaring at Julian. Then what was all that for? All the guilt I felt, the helplessness of standing by and watching. She had always believed Julian would never, ever let her get involved in family business. She never imagined he was just waiting for her to speak up, enjoying the show. You jerk! The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She grabbed a nearby throw pillow and hurled it at Julian. Leo quickly dodged to the side to avoid becoming collateral damage, simultaneously whipping out his phone to capture the precious moment. TSK. Ava beating up Julian. You don't see that every day. Julian reacted quickly, catching the pillow, but in the next second, Ava was on him, swinging her little fists and pummeling him relentlessly. He hadn't expected his sister to be this furious, and quickly used the pillow to shield his head. I'll teach you to watch me make a fool of myself. I'll teach you to lie to me. I'll teach you. I'll teach you to be named Julian Reed. Thump, thump, thump. Ava threw punch after punch, getting more excited with each one. So this is what it felt like to beat up her brother. It was kind of awesome. Hey, you little brat, take it easy. Have some respect. Julian grumbled as he took the hits. If you're going to hit me, fine, but what kind of excuse is that? It's my fault my name is Julian Reed. Mom and Dad gave me that name. If you want to beat someone up, go beat them up. Hey, Jelaya. Kane walked in at that moment, holding a stack of documents, just in time to witness Ava giving Julian a beatdown. Holy crap. When did Ava get so bold? Then he saw Leo off to the side, grinning from ear to ear and furiously snapping pictures. Kane immediately realized that Ava's boldness wasn't the most important thing right now. There was a higher priority. Click, 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 click. Whipping out his own phone, Kane started taking pictures too. This might be the only time in his life he'd ever see something like this. It had to be preserved. A few minutes later, Kane, Leo, and Ava were standing in a neat line in front of Julian. Ava, in particular, looked completely defeated, her head bowed, not daring to meet her brother's eyes. All her earlier bravado had vanished. Her mind was racing. Oh God, I got carried away and actually hit my brother. I didn't hit him that hard, right? And it was his fault to begin with, right? But then again, that feeling, she kind of wanted to experience it again. Though her head was down, Ava was secretly flexing her little fists, the urge to strike again bubbling up. Julian stood with his arms crossed, looking at the three of them, feeling a profound sense of helplessness. He could let Ava slide, but Leo and Kane, especially Kane, were supposed to be better than this. You two, delete the photos, Julian said, his face dark. When had the family culture devolved to this? Secret photo shoots being uploaded to the family group chat. Julian had snuck a peek. Luckily, Kane hadn't posted them yet. The situation was still salvageable. What photos? What are you talking about, Julian? Kane and Leo were in perfect sync, both feigning ignorance, as if the two guys grinning and snapping pictures a moment ago were completely different people. Seeing Julian's brow furrow in a clear sign of impending wrath, Leo quickly turned to Kane. Hey, Kane, are those the documents for me in your hand? Right? Look at my memory. I completely forgot to give them to you. Well, there's no time to waste. I'm heading to the interview right now. The sooner I get into the BSO, the sooner I can help the family. Leo, you're too kind. It's a long drive. Kane will take you. Let's go, let's go. The two of them chattered away as they made a swift exit. If they stayed any longer, their phones would be confiscated for sure. Leo, I'm coming too, Ava said, getting anxious when she saw the two of them abandoning her. What happened to all for one and one for all? Leo and Kane froze. You can't come. If you come, who will Julian take his anger out on? Ava, it's a dangerous mission. You stay here and be good. We'll be back soon. Leo intercepted her, pushing her back gently before he and Kane made their escape. Ava. Leo, you pig. Didn't you just promise we'd stick together? Men are all liars. She tried to run after them. Ava. Julian's single word froze her in her tracks. I'm so dead. Leo and Kane are on official business. You're staying here. You and are going to have a little chat. Julian smiled sweetly at her and gestured toward his study with his head. Go get a pen and paper. You're going to write an essay. You can stop when they get back. Brother, I really didn't mean it. 3, 2. Don't count, I'm going. Ava felt a headache coming on. She hated when Julian did that, counting down. He'd been terrorizing her with it since they were kids. She had a conditioned response. And so, Ava slumped over a desk, resentfully writing her essay of self-criticism while Julian sat nearby, leisurely sipping tea. If he had bothered to look closely, he would have noticed that the essay's content consisted entirely of curses aimed at Leo and Kane, with a few choice words for him sprinkled in. In fact, the more Ava wrote, the more excited she got. Cursing was addictive. Meanwhile, Kane was driving Leo toward the Bureau of Syndicate Oversight. They weren't discussing strategy for the upcoming interview. Instead, so how many pictures did you get? I got there late. Only managed about a dozen. Not bad. I only got about 20 myself. We'll trade later. I can hold these over Julian's head for the rest of his life. Think bigger. I'm holding them over his head for 2 lifetimes. The two of them grinned, completely forgetting they were on their way to do something important. A short while later, Leo finally saw the legendary BSO. The bureau is right across the street from the police department. Yep, they're sort of in the same system. Makes it easier for the bureau to access records and stuff, Kane said, as if it were obvious. Where else would it be? Leo's mouth twitched. An entity like this should either be housed in a grand, imposing building or hidden away in some secret location. Instead, it was just right there across from the police department in a normal-looking office building. More importantly, the sign on the front of the building was practically rotting away. You could barely even read the words. Wasn't anyone in charge of maintenance. Leo felt a deep sense of apathy emanating from the place before he even stepped inside. Here, this is your degree, your license. Kane shoved the stack of documents into Leo's hands. I'll wait for you here. Just go in and do a normal interview. Remember, a normal interview. As if he couldn't trust him, he added, and don't cause any trouble. This is the BSO, not some abandoned factory in the suburbs. Leo glanced at the documents in his hand and nodded distractedly. Relax. I'm a model citizen. Why would I cause trouble? I'm just here for a simple interview. He felt like Kane was biased against him. Did he really seem that unreliable? I'm going in. Leo got out of the car and headed straight for the BSO. Kane watched him go, lit a cigarette, and gave a self-deprecating laugh. Maybe he was overreacting. It was just an interview. What was he so worried about? Creak. Leo pushed the door open. At the reception desk, a young man with glasses heard the noise and immediately stood up. Hello, can I help you? Yeah, I'm here to apply for the psychologist position, Leo said, looking at the bookish young man. This is the Bureau of Syndicate Oversight, right? Yes, that's right. As soon as he heard Leo was there for the psychologist interview, the young man's face lit up. He rushed over, grabbed Leo's hand, and shook it vigorously. Hi, my name is Alex Young. The regular receptionist had an emergency, so I'm just filling in. We've been waiting for you forever. It's so good to finally have you here. Alex was ecstatic, his grip on Leo's hand tight. Leo's mouth twitched. This was not what he'd expected. What do you mean by that? You have no idea. Before you, we had 3 psychologists quit because they couldn't take it anymore. We haven't had a therapy session in 2 whole months. Leo tilted his head, a giant question mark appearing above it. I'm sick. I can't work. I need to see a psychologist. My work performance is tanking. If a psychologist doesn't get here soon, I'm going to have to take a leave of absence. I'm depressed. I'm going home. I'm done with this crap for today. Whoa, Wong, you're leaving early again. Screw it, me too. I'm also depressed. I have dissociative identity disorder. Where am I? Why am I at work? Alex Young led Leo through the main office of the BSO, and Leo's expression grew more and more stunned. You call this slacking off? Slacking off is when you occasionally do some work, but your attitude sucks. This was 1 in the afternoon, and people were clocking out, using depression as an excuse. Your smile is so bright it could light up the Milky Way, and you're depressed. These people weren't slackers. They were leeches sucking the federal government dry. I assume you see the situation, Alex said, embarrassed. As a member of the Bureau, he felt ashamed that an interviewee was witnessing this mess. It's been like this for 2 months. I forget who started it, but ever since, they've been using mental health as an excuse for everything. They come in late, leave early, and when they are here, they don't do any work. The more serious ones just call in sick and don't show up at all, like our receptionist today. Alex adjusted his glasses, a hint of apology in his voice. After that started, they found ways to drive away every psychologist we hired. Until now, you're the only person who's even applied. Leo's mouth twitched. He was pretty sure neither Kane nor Julian had any idea just how bad things had gotten inside the BSO. So you're telling me this group of people not only does this every day, but they also collect a hefty salary and full benefits? We're trying to improve the situation, but we've done everything we can. Alex sounded helpless. Besides him, there were only a few others who still showed up on time and did their jobs. Seeing how young Leo was, he felt a pang of sympathy. He couldn't bear to see a lamb like this walk into a den of wolves. You can still back out now, he said. The other psychologists couldn't handle the pressure and quit. After all, hearing this, Leo genuinely wanted to leave. How can anyone fix this? The only way was to fire everyone and start over, but that wouldn't solve the root problem. But after a moment's thought, Leo looked Alex straight in the eye and said firmly, "No, I'm staying." A determined glint flashed in his eyes. He had to stay. He was jealous. How dare they live such comfortable lives? Why did he have to be out there fighting for his life? He couldn't stand it. These bastards were getting paid with public funds to do absolutely nothing. They all have to get back to work. At that moment, Leo's resolve was unshakable. Before, he was just testing the waters to see if the BSO was a viable path. Now it was different. This was the only path. He had to get these freeloading degenerates back to work, or the sheer injustice of it all would drive him crazy. Alex, completely misreading Leo's inner monologue, felt a surge of emotion, as if he'd found a kindred spirit. He never expected Leo to be a man of principle, just like him. Okay, then follow me. If your credentials check out, you can start officially today. With that, Alex turned to the employees who were about to leave. Everyone quiet down for a moment. I'd like to introduce our new psychologist, Leo Evans. He should be officially on board shortly. Please give him a warm welcome. Clap, clap, clap. The only applause in the vast open office came from Alex himself. Everyone else just stood there, staring at Leo in disbelief. What? A new psychologist? Does that mean I'm going to get better? No, I can't get better. I'm never getting better. In an instant, Dozens of pairs of eyes were fixed on Leo, their owners already plotting how to get rid of him. Alex's solo clapping faded into an awkward silence. "You should come with me," he said to Leo. "We'll get you processed." "Sure." Leo nodded and smiled, unfazed. As he left, he even gave the crowd a friendly wave. "Just you wait, you degenerates. If I don't whip you into shape, my name isn't Leo Evans." After Leo left, the employees immediately huddled together, treating the situation like a major crisis. "What do we do, guys? I'm not done enjoying the good life yet. He looks young. Same old plan? Yeah, we just insist we're sick. He has no proof we're not. Let's be a little gentler this time. We don't want to scare him. Just get him to leave. Deal." In a matter of moments, they had their strategy. They'd done this so many times it was second nature. Meanwhile, Leo followed Alex to an office. Alex took his documents and began verifying them on his computer. "Doesn't your boss do anything about this?" "Our boss? Oh, you mean the director?" Alex answered while typing. "Actually, Director Jensen is part of the reason for the current situation. The directors of the Ethelberg field office are always assigned from headquarters. Ever since Director Jensen arrived, he's been completely hands-off. He doesn't care what we do, and he never punishes anyone, even for mistakes. He just locks himself in his office all day. As long as no one bothers him, he stays in there until closing time, then leaves. Every day like clockwork." Leo nodded. That made sense. Without oversight or consequences from above, who would bother to work hard? "Oh, right." Alex remembered something. Since Director Jensen arrived, every new employee has to go to his office and answer a question. Everyone gets asked the same question. You'll see in a bit, but it doesn't affect your hiring, so you don't need to worry when you see him. Leo frowned. What's the point of that? Does he just want to ask a question, or does he just want to see what new employees look like? Alex's typing faltered. He thought back to his own first day and smiled faintly. Who knows? No one understands why the director does it. Maybe he really does want to know the answer to that question. After a moment, Alex handed the documents back to Leo, then pulled a contract from a drawer and passed it to him. Your background and credentials are all clear. This is the contract. The salary is $8,000 a month after taxes, full benefits, for 1K matching. See if it looks okay to you. Leo's hand froze as he took the contract. His jealousy of the people outside deepened. Damn it. Even a contractor like me gets a deal this good? Just how much are those leeches making? They must be reformed. They absolutely must be reformed. Looks fine. Leo glanced at the contract and signed it without a second thought. He didn't understand most of it anyway, but a big federal agency like the BSO wouldn't try to scam him on a contract, right? Great. Then we're colleagues now. Alex stood up and shook Leo's hand warmly. Let's go see the director now. I'll take you to his office. So soon, Leo was surprised. He hadn't expected to meet the big boss right after walking in the door. Don't be nervous. It's just one little question. It'll be fine, Alex said, assuming Leo was anxious. He led him upstairs, comforting him along the way. Leo followed, his eyes scanning their surroundings, memorizing the layout of the building. Here we are. Alex stopped in front of the door. Leo looked up. A simple plaque on the door read, Director's Office. Knock, knock, knock. Director Jensen, the new hire is here. I've brought him. There was no reply from inside. They waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Alex had only knocked once and was now standing there patiently. Leo was beginning to wonder if anyone was even inside. Just as he was about to speak, a low, deep voice came from within the room. Send him in. Yes, sir. Alex gestured for Leo to open the door and go in himself. Leo pushed the door open and stepped inside. He frowned immediately. The room was thick with the smell of stale smoke and dimly lit, with only a sliver of light coming through a crack in the blinds. A powerfully built man with a face full of stubble sat silently on a sofa, a cigarette in one hand and a file in the other, which he was reading intently. The light from the window illuminated one half of his face, leaving the other shrouded in shadow. Sit. Leo sat down on the sofa opposite him without hesitation and spoke first. Director Jensen, hello. I'm a new psychologist. My name is Leo Evans. The director's interruption startled Leo. How'd he know his name? Director Jensen's voice was low and measured. Leo Evans. In August of this year, you were admitted to Ethelberg University's mathematics department with perfect placement scores and were taken on as a protege by the department head, Professor Miller. Your parents run a successful restaurant back in your hometown. Leo's eyes widened, his expression turning grave. How did this man have his information? And why was he investigating him? But the director's next words sent a chill down his spine, plunging him into an icy dread. On October 16th, you confessed your feelings to Ava Reed, the daughter of the Reed family patriarch, in front of your class. You were kidnapped that same night. For reasons unknown, you began to associate closely with the Reed family afterward. On the 17th at the Reed family's bar, the Midnight Oil, you not only crippled the Lynn Syndicate's enforcer Scar, but you also threatened Marcus Lynn with a firearm. And last night, along with the Reed family's lieutenant, Kane, you blew up the Phone Alliance's weapons factory in the western suburbs and framed the Lynn Syndicate for it. Director Jensen finished speaking, then set down the file. He leaned forward slightly, his deep-set eyes boring into Leo. A person like you shows up at my bureau. To what do I owe the pleasure? On the sofa, all of Leo's earlier playfulness had vanished. He finally realized he had seriously underestimated the situation. And Julian had been careless, too. They had both underestimated the Bureau of Syndicate Oversight. No, they had underestimated its director, the grizzled man sitting across from him right now. From the moment he had stepped into this building, his entire file must have been delivered straight to Director Jensen's desk. Kane, you son of a bitch. You never told me there was someone this terrifying in the Bureau. Leo took a deep breath. At this point, lying was useless. This man would see right through it. So, he decided to be direct. I want the Bureau to intervene and help the Reed family. Why? With the Bureau's help, we can save time and minimize losses. And why should we help you? It's the Bureau's responsibility, isn't it? Heh. Director Jensen let out a soft chuckle. He took a drag from his cigarette. The Bureau's responsibility is indeed to control conflicts, prevent them from affecting civilians, and to punish those families who use unscrupulous means to expand their power. That's how it used to be. But now, Jensen's face twisted into a sneer of contempt. You saw the state of this place when you came in. Do you really think they remember that responsibility you're talking about? Do you think they're willing to go to war with major syndicates for the sake of some bullshit responsibility? Leo fell silent. He realized he'd been far too naive. Go home, kid. Out of respect for the Reed family's clean record these past few years, I'll let you walk out of here. Director Jensen leaned back again, melting into the shadows. Leo didn't move. Thanks to his psychological acuity skill, he could sense something despite the director's excellent control. Jensen was deeply dissatisfied with the current state of the Bureau. And if that was true, there was still a chance. Director Jensen, what if I have a way to change the situation at the Bureau? What's the point? It would be a temporary fix, not a cure. Ultimately, it's futile, but doing something is better than doing nothing, isn't it? Heh, all right then. Tell me, what's your plan? Leo thought for a moment, then laid out his idea. Throughout his explanation, Director Jensen remained completely silent. When Leo finished, the director let out another soft laugh. That's a bold idea. If it were to happen, it might be worth a try. Hearing this, Leo knew his opportunity had come. The director was wavering. So you agree? No, I don't. Leo was stunned. Why not? It's a great plan. It's risky, and the cost might be high, but it could definitely turn this place around in a short amount of time, couldn't it? Director Jensen shook his head slowly, stubbed out his cigarette, and lit another one. Even if you succeed, so what? If you succeed, the culture of the Bureau changes. It gets back on track. They start remembering their responsibilities and doing the work they were supposed to do all along. Then they help you, and the Reeds deal with the Phone Alliance. After the Reeds are victorious, which family will you want our help with next? The Lynn Syndicate or the newly arrived Warren Collective? Leo's face was a mask of shock and confusion. He didn't understand what the director was trying to say. Go home, Leo. If you don't know what I truly want, you will never be able to persuade me. For the second time, Director Jensen dismissed him. Leo stood up. He knew he couldn't convince Director Jensen right now. He couldn't read this man. Even with a skill like psychological acuity, he couldn't discern what the director truly wanted. As he reached the door, a thought struck him. He turned back to face Director Jensen. Director, Alex told me that you ask every new employee the same question. That's correct. Leo walked back, his gaze fixed on the director. I want to hear it. What is the question? What kind of question would make a man like this ask it over and over again, tirelessly? Leo felt this could be his breakthrough. Director Jensen was silent for a long time. He took a drag from his cigarette, closed his eyes, and spoke softly. The question is simple. If one day you had the power to stop all the conflict in the world, what would you do? Hearing this, a spark ignited in Leo's eyes. He thought he finally understood what Director Jensen was after. And what answer can you give me for that question? Leo stood his ground. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he asked himself the same question. If he really had that power, what would he do? He probably knew the answer Jensen wanted to hear, but he refused to say it. He wouldn't lie about something like this. Finally, he spoke. If that day ever came, I'd do the same thing I do every day. Eat, sleep, go to class. At night, I take a walk with the person I love and look at the moon. I live my life exactly as I always have. At this answer, Director Jensen opened his eyes. Why? I might have the power to stop the world's conflicts, but I can't erase human greed and selfishness. But with great power comes great responsibility. That's a fine rule to live by for yourself, but don't you dare use it to guilt-trip me, Leo retorted, his expression unreadable. He knew now. What Director Jensen wanted, perhaps, was a world without conflict. But that was impossible. An empty field is not tilled, till it wants, and men will fight for it. No one wants conflict, but no one can prevent it. Not as long as human nature and self-interest exist. Director Jensen took a deep breath. He didn't argue. He simply closed his eyes again. You may leave. This time, Leo didn't hesitate. He walked out the door without another word. He knew this path was likely a dead end. It wasn't just a matter of conflicting interests between him and the director. It was a conflict of ideologies. Jensen believed the world's conflicts could be stopped, and that those with power had a duty to do so. Leo believed that as long as greed and selfishness existed, conflict was inevitable. Neither could accept the other's worldview. Alex had been waiting outside. When he saw Leo emerge, he rushed over. What took so long? Did the director? Sorry, I quit. Leo was in a bad mood. He threw the words over his shoulder and headed for the stairs, ready to leave. Alex stood there completely baffled. He had no idea what had just happened. All he knew was that the psychologist he'd finally gotten was about to walk out the door. Forgetting everything else, he ran to intercept Leo. Dr. Evans, let's talk about this. Don't be hasty. Why are you quitting? What? I can't quit if I don't want to work here. You can't do that. You just signed a contract. If you quit now, you'll have to pay a penalty. The mention of money made Leo pause. He thought for a second. Fine, I'm not quitting. Alex's face lit up with a smile. He managed to talk him down. I'm going home for the day, Leo announced and continued down the stairs. At the bottom, he found a crowd of employees huddled at the stairwell, eavesdropping. Hey, Dr. Evans, we have a rule against leaving early, Alex called out, chasing after him. He shot a glare at the dumbfounded onlookers. Is this really the time to be eavesdropping? Leo ignored them, turning his head to look at Alex with an expression that said, Are you serious? What do you mean leaving early? I'm in a bad mood. I'm depressed. I'm going home to work on my mental health. Is there a problem with that? Then, he turned to the crowd of government leeches and asked again, Do you all think there's a problem with that? No problem, they answered in unison. The way they looked at Leo now was completely different. If they had seen him as an enemy before, they now saw him as one of their own. Look at this guy. Just started and he already understands our office culture and knows how to use it to his advantage. This is talent. This is the kind of psychologist they needed. Though no words were exchanged, they were united in a single conviction. Leo absolutely cannot be allowed to leave. We need a psychologist like him. See? They said there's no problem, Leo said to Alex, then pushed open the main door and left without a backward glance. Hey, Dr. Evans, Alex called out one last time, but Leo didn't turn back. Alex turned and glared at the group who had backed Leo up, his face a mask of bitter disappointment. Then he spun around and ran back upstairs. He had to ask the director what had happened. Why had Leo's attitude changed so drastically after just a few minutes in his office? What they talked about? Well, back so soon, Dr. Evans, Kane said, a cigarette dangling from his lips as he watched Leo get into the car. But he quickly noticed Leo's foul mood. What happened? I'm completely exposed. The director of the BSO. His name is Jensen. You know him? Huh. I thought the director's last name was Chun. How old is your information? Maybe 2 years? But they usually don't replace the BSO directors. Leo shot Kane the middle finger. You gotta be kidding me, Kane. You're giving me intel that's 2 years old. Whatever. Let's talk when we get back. The BSO plan is probably a bust. So, the two of them returned to the Reed estate. The moment they stepped inside, they saw Ava slumped over the table, listlessly writing. Next to her was a stack of several pages covered in dense text. Hearing them enter, Ava's head shot up. The moment she saw it was Leo and Kane, her eyes filled with tears. Wah, you're finally back. The girl threw down her pen and collapsed onto the soft sofa, rubbing her wrists. Her hand was about to fall off from writing. Seeing her, both men felt a pang of guilt. In a way, she was being punished because of them. You're back. How did it go? Julian asked, looking at them. He didn't mention the photos again. Business came first. Besides, it wasn't like they'd dare to leak them. If the photos ever got out, he'd know it was one of them. And he could just kill them both.